able and dynamic president, and other members of the National Executive Council, the Senate of the Edo State Chapter that has worked so hard to put together this very interesting workshop. I bring you special greetings from Rivers State and from the Honorable Commissioner for Works. I did not know that I carried so much grace when I embarked on this journey to Benin City until I met Mr. President at the airport in Lagos. So I was very privileged to join the presidential flight from Lagos to Benin, and I was also privileged to receive the presidential welcome at the airport. That was really spectacular what the Edo State Chapter did. Thank you very much, Edo State Chapter. When my boss, QS Dr. Alabo George, called me to come to Benin to present this paper for him, it was not until on Saturday he had wanted to come here himself. But he has been at the forefront of project monitoring and delivery with respect to the forthcoming commissioning of projects in Rivers State as part of the governor's 100 days in office. So as a result of that, he asked for permission, but the governor had to tell him to please stay behind because every day they travel to different local government areas, ensuring that the projects that are slated to be commissioned are ready. Against that backdrop, he was unable to come for this workshop, so he called me to quickly prepare myself to show up on his behalf. He sent his greetings. He loves Edo people. He has great love for the Institute and great respect for the Institute. And as I would say, that QS, Dr. Alabo George, FNIQS, has given facelift to quantity surveying in Rivers State. After leaving NDDC, you know, a lot of people said he was special advisor to the governor on special projects, but he was also a member of the governing council of the Kenule Bison Sarawiwa Polytechnic. And when he got on board, he was able to bring in a lot of changes in the institute. In fact, at that time, they did not have a quantity surveyor in the Department of Works. And that was the department that was directly involved in executing and supervising projects in the Polytechnic. And most of these projects were TET fund projects. And they were having a lot of issues with their contractors. But he came in as a QS and resolved all of those issues arising from project abandonment. Most of the contractors were called back to site. The issues were discussed, they were resolved, and they all went and completed their projects. After that, most of the council members, the chairman of the council, Chief Adoke Amesimaka, he understood the importance of quantity surveyors, and immediately they employed 2 QS in the Department of Works. It was from there, he now went into the Bureau for Special Projects, where he also displayed his skills as a quantity surveyor, bringing up quantity surveyors on board. The governor and other members of the State Executive Council, they recognized his importance, and he has always been at the forefront. We also have some other QS that I'd like us to recognize, like our father, Chief Ferdinand Alabrabra, who has also been at the helm of affairs in Rivers State. These are the people that have ensured that quantity surveyors are engaged in project planning, project execution, and all the processes to make sure that there are no gaps when it comes to project delivery. That is why you see that most projects in Rivers State, they are always completed according to schedule. What's up? Please, excuse me. Okay. All right. Now to the business of the day. We are looking at procurement policies at the sub-national level. And our overview of the presentation, we're going to look at the introduction. We'll look at the procurement policy at the sub-national level. At the national level first, we start from the national level, then we'll go to the sub-national level. Then we shift our focus to Rivers State. We look at the Rivers State public procurement law, then the key features of the Rivers State public procurement law, then how has public procurement policy or the laws helped to deliver good governance in Rivers State. Then, of course, there has to be some challenges. Then we will conclude. It's going to be a very brief paper. You go straight to the point. Public procurement. What is public procurement? Everybody engages in procurement. Procurement is a day-to-day activity that is carried out by everybody, every living being. We go out every day, we go to the shops, we go to the market, we buy things. We pay for goods, we pay for services. That is with our personal money. Now, there are different levels of procurement. If you are, for instance, a single person, the way you perform your procurement is quite different from somebody that is married. A single person can work, let me say, use myself as an example. When I was not married, I was working. So I had my money, I could buy anything I want. Nobody is going to query me. But immediately I got married, it was no longer business as usual. There are certain expenses you make. Your wife will ask you, how far? Why are you buying this? This thing you're buying, what for? So your expenditure, there's somebody to query it. So you begin to plan yourself to say, okay, this is my salary, this is for my wife, this is for my kids, this is for school fees, this is for this, and this is for that. Procurement, that's procurement. Now, there is an addition of public to procurement. It's the same thing. Buying of goods, works, services. Now, it's public, means everybody is involved. The money you're using to buy, or if you like, acquire the works, goods, or services is public money. So you don't spend it anyhow. There has to be some procedures. There has to be some policies you must follow to ensure that what you're doing is beneficial to the public. Fine, you are in power. It's the same public that put you there to represent them. They say, go and represent us. The money you're spending is generated from the same public, either by way of them paying you tax or by revenue generated from public resources. So you need to spend the money in a manner that the people will not cry, in a manner that will be beneficial to the public. So that is what public procurement is all about. Public procurement policies, that is the step-by-step approach from the point where you do your needs assessment, because you don't just go about spending people's money without knowing what they need. So you assess their need, you do your budget, you plan a project, you do your budget, you do your solicitation processes, you award your contracts, you make payments, you dispose. So disposal is also part of public procurement. Let's say, for instance, you procure a vehicle, and this vehicle is meant to be used for 4 years. After the 4 years, you don't just let anybody in the name of a director to just pick the vehicle and take it to his house. There has to be a process of disposing such public asset. Budget implementation, service delivery, and economic development are all part of the policies. The objective of public procurement policies, what are the objectives? Is to deliver value. When you follow the process in a transparent, efficient, and effective manner, value is delivered to the people. That is when they will say, kudos, you've done very well. You've made good use of our resources. Now let's look at public procurement policy at the national level. Public procurement policy started in Nigeria in 2007 when the National Assembly passed the PPA into law, that is the Public Procurement Act. Now, this PPA was modeled after the UNCITRAL model law. The UNCITRAL is the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. It is a template for domestic procurement legislation, and it was so drafted so that states and other bodies can use it, domesticate it to suit the needs of the state. It's not meant to be taking hook, line, and sinker like everything that is there to copy it and use, because what obtains in the United States or United Nations might not be obtainable in Baramatu Kingdom. So you just look at it and say, okay, these are the provisions. What is obtainable in Kola community, for example, in Rivers State? They may not align together. So the objectives of the UNCITRAL model law is to enhance efficiency and effectiveness and to avoid abuse in the procurement process. Having said that, let's look at procurement policies at the sub-national level. Further to the enactment of the Public Procurement Act, the Rivers State government was the first to enact the Rivers State Public Procurement Law. On 3rd May 2008, the governor of Rivers State, His Excellency, Right Honorable Chibuike Rotimi Amechi, signed the law as passed by the Rivers State House of Assembly. Other states also followed suit. Lagos State, they have the Lagos State Public Procurement Agency, Kaduna State, I think Jigawa State, Kwara State, Delta State, Edo State, several other states, they also enacted their public procurement laws. And since 2015, there has been interagency collaboration amongst the different public procurement bureaus or agency, if you like. They have been collaborating together, trying to see how they can share experiences of one state and the other. Just recently, Rivers State Bureau on Public Procurement, some officials went to Lagos State Public Procurement Agency to understudy the e-procurement process, which is already in effect in Lagos State. Now in Lagos State, they have onboarded 107 MDAs. They started with the e-registration of contractors and service providers. All onboarded. The Lagos State Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, they have the full complement of the e-procurement system. So if you want to do procurement in Lagos, most of the paperwork has been reduced. Everything is done via e-procurement. So that is about the collaboration, partnership, and experience sharing. Also, the Delta States were in River State to understudy some of the processes that were used to execute public procurement. Now, let's focus on the River State Bureau on Public Procurement. Further to the enactment of the River State Public Procurement Law 2008, the law established the River State Bureau on Public Procurement as the agency, or if you like, the custodian of the law. And it also established the board of directors consisting of 9 men. The board mainly has a function to approve procurement policies, amongst others. Also, the Bureau, what the Bureau does, the Bureau monitors projects, supervises procurement processes of ministries, departments, and agencies. Whatever procurement method is used to award a contract must pass through the River State Bureau on Public Procurement, because the law says that if you don't have a no objection certificate, or if you like, certificate of no objection, then you don't have power to spend public money. The scope of application of the law concerns every expenditure that is coming from public fund, from the state government, ministries, departments, agencies, to local government authorities, provided the money you're spending is coming from River State government. If there are donor agencies, like we see the World Bank coming to execute projects, their own law will apply. But in as much as the money is coming from the purse of River State government, it has to follow the processes, the procedures, and the provisions of the River State Public Procurement Law. Let us look at the procurement methods as provided in the River State Public Procurement Law. The most recognized and acceptable method of procurement as provided in the law is open competitive bidding. Open competitive bidding, as we all know, is when you make available information to every interested bidder. you throw it open for every Shotunde and Sons Nigeria Limited and Julius Benja to apply. And Kesa Construction, right? Construction Kesa, yeah, to apply. That is open competitive bidding. You advertise it in the national dailies. Now, that procurement method is provided in section 21 of the Rivers State Public Procurement Law. But if you go to 21.4, it gave some powers to the governor of the state. And what it says is that notwithstanding the provisions of the law, the governor, it was very clear to say notwithstanding the provisions of the law, and the governor shall have powers to award contracts not exceeding 30% of the annual capital budget of the state. But there is something interesting in case, because a lot of people, when they saw this provision of the law, they say, everything is good now. But it also went further to state that, provided always that the bureau shall supervise the project. So, what that means is that the governor does not just use his powers to award contracts. The governor has to send it to the Rivers State Bureau on Public Procurement to vet the contract and make recommendations to him. And the Rivers State Bureau on Public Procurement will also supervise the project. So I think that is a plus to the Rivers State government. Now, apart from open competitive bidding, we also have special and restricted methods of procurement. We have the two-stage tendering, we have the restricted tendering, we have requests for quotation, we have direct procurement, and we have emergency procurement. If you look at this, it means that provision has been made for any unforeseeable circumstances. Whatever situation arises, there is a procurement method to adopt, and you will not fall short of the law. For example, we saw Mr. President was with us in Bayelsa. While we were at the workshop, we started receiving calls. Please come back to Port Harcourt. East-West Road flood is covering East-West Road. That's an emergency, right? But sometimes we also try to educate the MDAs that yes, there is something that is called contrived emergency. There are some situations that you can foresee that in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, so situation will arise. So you need to begin to plan ahead to say, okay, when it comes up, you don't come and put it under emergency. We always encourage them to plan ahead. For example, if Nigerian Meteorological Agency gives a warning signal that there will be flood, as a procuring agency, you begin to plan, not to wait until when the flood comes. You come and bring proposal, emergency, approve. It shouldn't work like that. If you had planned for your procurement of items, if you had planned for relocation of flood victims and all of that, if you had planned for alternate road construction, understanding that the normal route that will be followed will be affected by flood. If you have planned for drainages, water collectors, and all of that, we believe some of these emergencies will be avoided, because that's where a lot of people make money because at that time, they don't have to follow the process. Now, we have been talking about procurement of non-consultancy services. We also have the procurement of consultancy services in the Rivers State Public Procurement Law. And the procurement of consultancy services falls under two categories. We have the expression of interest to provide services for ascertained needs. We also have expression of interest to provide services for unascertained needs. There are sometimes the needs are already known. For example, you want to construct a building, you already know what you want to construct. You already have your design, drawings, and all the necessary things you need. But for unascertained needs, sometimes you need somebody to come up with their own proposal. You don't know, you don't have the skill, the expertise to go about it. So that's one, you will send expression of interest for unascertained needs. Those that are interested will now bid and give you solutions. You only tell them that this is your problem. The bidders will give you solution to the problems. Then the law also talks about disposal of public property. So the disposal of public property, all it has to do with is if you no longer have need for an asset, you have to follow the same process of procurement. You can do it by open competitive bidding. For instance, some of the assets of Rivers State government were advertised. The stock exchange building, the Harcourt Decompletion building, the buildings were advertised for sale. And people bidded, they opened the bid, and it was sold to the highest bidder. You know, unlike the other one, that when you want to carry out contracts, they say award it to the lowest, economically most advantageous bidder. You know, sometimes when they say lowest bidder, and QSJ was talking about when they are preparing their bids, they first of all look at the direct cost, like what it will take in terms of materials, labor, equipment, before going to look at profit and overhead cost. And sometimes they get amazed, or if you like, surprised. During bidding, some people are bidding below their own direct cost or their benchmark, if you like. So these are some of the duties of the Bureau to first of all check the in-house estimate of the MDAs to be sure that they are up to date in terms of pricing of the items. So they don't just go open and award a contract to a bid because it's low. Sometimes a bid might be low, but it is non-compliant. So all of those things, they have to be checked. So in your case, those people will be thrown out. They will not be given the job because those are the people that when you give them contracts, after 1 month, those are the people that when you give them contract, you go and see them at the car shop, like our big brother said yesterday. So we are very careful and mindful of recommending such people for contracts. Then we have the monetary threshold. The monetary threshold, what does it say? Is to say that what is the limit of money that if you want to engage in procurement, that you'll be required to go through due process. So for Rivers State, it's 50 million. So anything above 50 million, it has to be prior review. So anything below 50 million, it has to be post-review. So that means the procuring entity can go ahead, follow the process, award the contract, but within 30 days, you need to report to the bureau. You can go ahead, award your contract, start your project, but within 30 days of award, you have to come back to the bureau to tell them this is what I did, this and this is the procedure that I use to award the contract with all the necessary documentation. Then the mobilization fees, as provided in the law, is 30% to be paid to contractors. But that was amended to 75% by the Rivers State House of Assembly. Again, I was worried or surprised when QSJ yesterday was saying that Faith, when she was advising contractors to be careful in accepting 80%, and that they will need to go back to do their homework to be sure that they don't have too much money in their system to avoid mismanagement of resources. But I look at it that if you have gone through the process to get the job, except you are not ready. If you're ready, you should have known all of that. So that once you grab the 80%, you quickly buy the materials that you need. Again, somebody, he talked about buying dollars, that it will bring about, it causes dollars to escalate. I don't agree to. Let me use an example. We had a contract that we reviewed. It will still come up later. The construction of ultra-modern abattoir. Now the abattoir equipment, which was a major part of the contract, was to be brought in from Europe. And it was priced in dollars. But because the law does not allow to pay in dollars, it has to be converted to naira. Right? At that time, exchange rate was 6.30 or thereabout. So, converting it to naira and I pay you, if you don't immediately exchange your money to dollars, you fall risks. Because I tell you the truth, that the price will still remain as it were in dollars, but when the dollar escalates, you don't come back and say, the time we signed the contract, dollar was 6.30 and now it's 7.50. Come and give me extra money. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to understand how the market works as a contractor. So that once you're given this money, you quickly move it to your dollar account and start your procurement process of that part of the job, because it's a long lead item anyway. So if you wait and you want to start fighting government that is 6.30, that was dollar, now it's 7.50, it's going to be very difficult. And it's also, we have had issues where contractors try to be very smart. There was a case where a contractor was awarded a contract to do a reclamation project. And after some time, he asked the ministry to pay. He was asking for variation. So when the matter came up, we asked him that, why are you asking for variation? He said that when the project was awarded, that diesel was 250. And now diesel has gone up to 750. Yes, that diesel is a major component of the project that they use for the dredging equipment and every other equipment, Swambuki, that works on site. And we asked him, when the contract was awarded, how much were you paid? He said, 50%. We said, okay, 50% was supposed to take the job to 50% completion, right? Because he did some calculations and said, diesel 250, this we needed quantity of diesel, now the price difference of 500 multiplied by the total quantity that I'm asking for, so amount of money. And we said, no. Now we began to tell him that as at March 2019, diesel was this amount. It moved to so price at this amount. From this month, it moved to so price. We had to give him a breakdown of the price movement of diesel from the time the contract was awarded to the time the claims came up. And you would have bought diesel with, deduct the 50%. Let's work on the 50% balance. Now from the 50% balance, you were paid another 30% as so month. Within this period, diesel price was so. We used that to calculate. Then the remaining balance. The money that came up was very small. And the message is a new process, you people. So these are the things that we do in River State to be sure that contractors, we don't joke with contractors. We make sure they are okay. We make sure they deliver their jobs, but we also make sure they don't steal River State money. And I think that was why some of these issues that came up was why the River State House of Assembly was advised, the River State Bureau on Public Procurement and all the relevant stakeholders decided that the mobilization fees be moved to 75%. So people are paid between 30 and 75%, depending on the volatility of the job. What are the components that are likely to escalate in prices? You remember, a lot of times we tell them, we also go to the market. So it's not only you, the contractor, that goes to the market. We have price research and intelligence unit. Prices of reinforcement, if you ask a contractor, he will tell you that it's always going up, but it also comes down. That is the truth. There is no price of building materials, I know, that has always gone up. Now, if you ask somebody that is supplying sand to you, he will tell you that price of diesel has gone up. But price of diesel goes up and down. There was a time price of diesel went up to 850, then it came down to 620. Then now it's going up again. But at the time it's coming down, the contractors will remain quiet, as if nothing is happening. They are making money. But once it begins to go up, they start backing. So from the government end, we are also careful to keep our records so that when they come, we can give them the necessary evidence to show that it's not easy for you to come and grab additional money outside your contract sum. So if you're giving 75%, go home happy. If you have dollar components of your contract, change that to dollars and be safe. The other ones that has to do with Naira component, if you have a plant yard, buy all your reinforcement, buy all your granite, buy all your sharp sand, all the non-perishable commodities, buy them and keep. If you go to Julius Berger Yard in Port Harcourt, at Eastern Bypass and at Transamadi, you see several tons of reinforcement. There are over 50 iron benders working every day. Every day they are working. They are doing precast, they are precasting their beams, all their slabs, all the 4 slabs, they are casting them. They are always busy working. So these are the things. That is why you see that the governor, sometimes the former governor, His Excellency, Chief Barrister Yeson Wike, he likes to give jobs to Julius Berger because you see them always working. They are always working. They are always prefabricating everything, all their components, they are always there. They have very large expanse of land that they have acquired for fabricating their components. Now, The Rivers State Bureau on Public Procurement has worked tirelessly and effortlessly to help procuring entities. You know, when you introduce something new, people are always resistant to change. When you say, provide so document, they keep going in circles, like they don't want to move to the next level. So, the Rivers State Bureau on Public Procurement provided some guidance notes to help procuring entities in the implementation of the Rivers State Public Procurement Law. And these are the requirements. We have 10 items there. The first one is reference to an agreed procurement plan. The procurement plan is like a life document that everybody that wants to spend government money, the first thing you do is to have your procurement plan. Without procurement plan, you don't have right to spend 10 kobo. And the procurement plan, you prepare it before the procurement year. You go to the bureau, you look at it, everything is in order. These under goods, these are the items we plan to procure. Under works, these are the items we plan to procure. Under services, what is the estimated cost? You must make sure you engage a quantity surveyor, not to go and get an accountant or a lawyer to estimate. He said, no worry, that thing, put 20 billion there. No, it doesn't work like that. And I'd like to give kudos to the Director General of the Rivers State Bureau on Public Procurement. If you come to the Bureau and you don't have a quantity surveyor, he will ask you to go back. It's not a QS, but he understands the value of quantity surveyors. So everybody that's coming, before you see consultants, architects will just come for meeting, right of reply meeting. He is the architect, he is the engineer, he is the QS, he is everything. They say, no, it doesn't work like that. Go and get your complete team. You cannot come and be answering questions regarding to cost. That yes, I'm the, what do you call it, principal, right? I'm the principal prime, yeah. I'm the prime consultant. No, it does not work like that. So since then, there has been a high level of compliance. You need to have your budget certificate from the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning. You have to come up with the record of process for selection. How did you go about to select your contractor? What procurement method did you use to select? What are the evaluation criteria? How did you come up with your recommendations? You have to explain all of that with proof documentation. Then you have to also come up with your statement of purpose. What is the purpose of this work? Why do you want to build a 5-bedroom duplex for the director or the PAMSEC or the commissioner? Why? Statement of impact. Okay, this is the purpose. What is the impact of this, your purpose? You have a purpose. Then tell us now the impact in the short term, medium term, and long term. How will it impact? How will it benefit the state? You have to state that. Then the sustainability plan. Okay, you have impacted us. Now, how do you hope to sustain it? What is your maintenance plan? Then you need to also show the proposed cost. How much will it cost the state to implement this, your procurement? Then your engineering analysis and design calculations, your geotechnical investigation reports, and all the necessary designs. Your work program. How long will it take to complete this project? Then anti-bribery compliance statement, you must swear that you will not give bribe to the person that will supervise the work. And you will not give bribe to the PAMSEC of the ministry. You must go and swear and take oath. So you know the consequences of going to swear. Is it perjury? The lawyers will explain better. All right. Now, let's look at public procurement policy and good governance in Rivers State. Public procurement policy has brought about good governance in Rivers State. A lot of people are now mindful of how they transact business in Rivers State. The contract award process goes through some rigorous checks. It's no longer business as usual. And this has led to cost savings. Sometimes a proposal, somebody can propose an idea to the government, come up with wonderful designs, cost and all of that to the governor. He will send it to the bureau to review, and most times the outcome is alarming. Even the governor, sometimes he gets shocked at the outcome of the review. That when somebody is proposing to do a work for maybe 5 billion, it ends up in 3 billion. So he gets shocked with that. That makes availability of funds for capital projects. Because of that, a lot of cost savings is helping the governor to execute several projects. And it brings sanity in the procurement process. Now, what are the critical elements of good governance? We talked about transparency, accountability, value for money, due process and fairness, efficient and effective project delivery. Now, efficient and effective project delivery helps the governor to execute 12 flyover projects in 4 years. And also, the Rivers State campus of the Nigerian Law School was delivered within 11 months. This was designed, supervised by our own QS, Dr. George Kelly Alabon. Procurement policy and good governance has also helped the Bureau to embark on training of procurement cadre in different ministries, departments, and agencies. And the Rivers State government has also acquired the automatic road analyzer, and they need to install the ground penetration radar. With this equipment, this vehicle, if it's driven on the road, even after the contractor has completed this project, it will tell you the depth, the thickness of the asphalt, the wearing cost, the binder cost, and other sub-grade and sub-base materials. You know, one place, one area, contractors steal money is when they say they are doing 60 mm binder cost and 40 mm wearing cost. They go and do some connive. That's why I say you swear oath. You are going to take oath, not to give bribe. Because our government cannot be everywhere. There are representatives. Now, if you are supposed to do 60 mm binder cost and you reduce it to 40, and you, instead of doing 40 mm wearing cost, you reduce it to 30, and the asphaltic component of the project is running into some billions, you can imagine if you interpolate that figure, how many billion you will be making. So, for example now, the Port Harcourt Ring Road project that was awarded at 195 billion and 75% has been paid. You can imagine how many billion will go into asphalt wearing and binding costs, and even stone base and some other materials. If the thickness is compromised, how many billion the contractor is going to be making? So with this automatic road analyzer, we can drive through your project and tell you, hey, this is what you did. We have to review this job. Or if you don't like, if you have given bribe, we'll activate the non-bribery compliance statement and prosecute you in a court of competent jurisdiction. Are there challenges? Yes, there are challenges. People do not want to comply. People are always resistant to change. Because why? There is corruption and fraud in the land. People are not committed. And there is inadequate enforcement. And there are regulatory resources, like we just talked about the automatic road analyzer. There are some resources that if the regulators are using, will help them to save a lot for the government. In conclusion, let me say that the secret of speedy completion of quality projects, infrastructure delivery in Rivers State include proper budgetary provisions, payment of between 30 to 75% mobilization fees, proper pre-qualification of contractors and service providers with technical and financial capacity. In view of the theme of this workshop, managing construction projects in turbulent times, it is important for procurement policies to be domesticated in recognition of the peculiarities as envisaged by the ancestral model law and modernize it to meet the needs of the state so that the people will feel the government. Thank you for listening.
Please, a round of applause once again for QS Jami Numbere, who has presented a solid paper representing QS Dr. George Kelly Alabo. Thank you very much, sir. I wouldn't know if we have, we can take one or two questions from anybody quickly before you have a seat. 1, 2. Wow. Okay, we will take, so because we want to try and, we're just waiting for our distinguished guests so that we can start the ceremonial session. So we'll start the questions we can take, but immediately our guests arrive, please note that we'll stop, go into the ceremonial session proper, then maybe later on we'll continue. I hope that is fine. Okay, so let me have those hands so I can just note. DP, you're recognized. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And former Secretary QS Kola DMO, you also recognized and pointed out. Okay, before I hand over, can we have the second mic? I'll please like to welcome our President, Ms. QS Olayemi Shonubi, who walked in during the session. Please, a round of applause for the President to please come forward. Also, the Deputy President, QS Kene, also walked in during the session. Good morning, sirs, and thank you for joining us. And please, let's have the mic and for questions. Speakers for today. All right, thank you. Also, QS Aminu Suleiman also walked in during the session. Is a resource for today as well. Thank you for joining us. Where is he? I've not seen him. Oh, great, super. Thank you, sir. You're welcome. All right, you should be forward. You should be forward, sir. Okay, so can we have the second mic? Okay, thank you. Please go to, who was number 1? See, you are here already. We have 2 hands here. QS Faith can start, and hope nobody is going to ask how the name of Mr. Project started in Rivers State. So, straight to the point.
Thank you very much. My question is this. I find it interesting. I want to talk about this back-to-back disbursement. There is a little tweak to it. You mentioned the case of diesel and the claim of the contractor. You see, there are items that because you cannot procure to the extent of the advance payment disbursed, those items should be given special treat when you are making adjustment for fluctuations. So if you say 50% has been paid and you prorata it directly on diesel, is the contractor expected to procure 50% of the diesel that he needs even when he doesn't need it? So it doesn't apply to items such as that. He doesn't have a storage yard where he can keep such items. So I want to still plead that items like that, especially for us QS, when we do review of claims, it is not for items like diesel. If you pay me 85%, you don't expect me to procure 85% of the diesel I need from the onset. It's not workable. If I pay for it, where do I store it? Are you going to pay for it and leave it in the yard of the supplier? No. So items like that should be given special treat. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, my professional colleague, good morning once again. I actually like her response because she's talking about claims. You will agree with me that claims is a very challenging aspect of our profession. I have numbers of questions to ask, but I will limit it to one to allow others to ask. You mentioned the veto power of the governor, that the governor has right over 30%, if I'm correct, to award the contract. However, that will also be supervised by the Bureau. But what I don't understand, is it the contract that will be supervised, meaning the contract management, which is the procurement aspect, or the implementation, execution of the contract? That is number one. Number two, you also mentioned that in River State, there is no spending without certificate of no objection. And I listened to where you talked about the threshold. So the threshold, anything after 50 million, will now have to show where you mentioned some key features, meaning the processes, how it started from perhaps the advertisement up until maybe the award. So I want to get enlightened because this actually differs with what is happening at the National Bureau for Public Procurement. These processes, they actually differ. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The third, I thought you will take the last. So yes. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Jonathan Daniel from Kaduna chapter. You did a very wonderful presentation, and I really enjoyed it. I have about a question. Maybe I don't know who is the question directed to. Maybe you can answer OQS Faith. From her presentation yesterday through your presentation today, we got to realize that we have this issue of the lowest bid. You made mention of it, and she did make mention of it. From the Public Procurement Act, I think we have an issue. But from your presentation, you made us to understand that you don't really go by that. You look at some factors. Yesterday in her presentation, she did say that one have to look at, one can imagine from their own point of view, even to just meet up with the project, someone's quotation is not meeting up with the basic entities for the project, talk more of profit. So how do we really go about this? Is there anything the Institute can do, or the Quanitity Surveyors can do, the QSRBN can do about this issue of the lowest bid gets it all? Then the second question, from your statement, just got me wondering, could this be the reason for the success River State have recorded, whereby they give 30 to 70% to contractors haven't met the requisite requirements on their project. If this is, I think it will be a very welcome idea for us to also imbibe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. You want to assist us? Okay. No problem. We will take this fourth one, then you will respond to it before we go to the second segment.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. My name is Ebuge James Amakurumo from Bayelsa State. Though from the time I came in, I don't know if it was mentioned, but taking it from the point I met the presentation, there arises a question. We all know that today contractors, especially at the state level, even maybe the federal level, not every contractor that is actually a seasoned contractor. Some of them are just politicians that uses their political connection to lobby for the jobs. However, I want to know what are the steps put in place in the Rivers State public procurement law to mitigate the risk of abandonment, since the law have stated that you can mobilize 75%. After mobilization of 75%, what are the steps put in place to make sure that the contractor diligently progresses with the work? And if it does not, what do you do? Thank you.
Thank you. I think you can respond to this first segment. Okay. Okay, sir. I think before, yeah, there was somebody. Okay.
Sorry, you know, because we need to stay on a proper platform. If you talk about giving 75%, because what I understand about giving mobilization, they are for items that are prone to fluctuations. They are meant to be targeted at materials or equipment that will be applied directly on that project that are prone to fluctuation. Do you give 75% on those identifiable materials and equipment, or 75% of the contract sum, so that, you know, you don't begin to do a direct labor indirectly? Because there are tendencies, if you give 75% of the contract, you may be doing direct labor. You are funding the contractor. That means the contractor is not investing any money. So you have to explain to us whether it's 75% of the contract sum or 75% of the bulk of the materials that will be deployed to the project. Then secondly, you talked about, I think you said contrived emergency, to borrow your word. You talked about contrived emergency. And you said the Bureau has to be proactive. I know that in other places, is the MDA that executes the project that will come with a need assessment. Is it the Bureau that will be proactive to do the need assessment and go to procure, or what?
Thank you very much. Please, before you respond, can those sitting behind move closer, please? I mean, we have seats here at the front. People should just try to occupy the seats so that others who are joining us will just sit from behind without necessarily disturbing the proceedings. Yeah, please, let's just make these adjustments very quickly. You can proceed, please, to take the question.
Thank you very much for all the responses. Let me start with QS Fit. Your point is well noted and will be done as such concerning the 50% for the diesel. But just that we keep tabs with the contractor to ensure that they don't manipulate the government. If you're paid and the prices remain so for like 2 to 3 months, and you need to tell us your daily consumption. For example, those are some of the questions we ask them. What is your daily consumption? Why do we do that? so that we'll be able to know exactly what volume has been consumed within the period that the price remained the same at the time that the contract was awarded. So thank you very much for that. Then our brother there talked about the veto power of the governor. Okay.
Rotimi. SG. National anthem. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please rise for the national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Thank you. Thank you. You may please have your seat. Thank you. That was a beautiful anthem of Edo State. His Excellency, Mr. Godwin Nogegase Obaseki, the Governor of Edo State, ably represented by the Commissioner of Physical Planning, Housing, Urban and Regional Development, Benin City, Edo State, Honorable Lusoke Homo. The President, Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, QS Michael Olaimi Shonubi, members of the National Executive Council present, chapter chairman, fellows of the institute, members, distinguished guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and I'll please like you to welcome you to the opening ceremony of this two-day national workshop of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors on managing construction projects in turbulent times in the beautiful city of Benin, Edo State. A round of applause. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'll please like to very shortly also recognize up here for recognition where they are seated. We have the chairman of Edo State chapter of Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Ojegba Iroro is here with us. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as we go along and hopefully before the end of this event, we will also recognize some distinguished guests who have reckoned that they're on their way. However, we'll please like to recognize the presence of our fathers, our leaders in quantity surveyors, particularly in Edo State chapter, Benin City, who have made the practice of quantity surveying before now a memorable one and of great value. I'm talking about recognizing our past chairman in Edo State. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by recognizing Pastor Ben C. Ude, past chapter chairman of Edo State. If you are here, please recognize yourself. Please, where is he? Okay, he's not here. We also have QS Nuruddin O. Igele, who also is a past chapter chairman. Is he here? Thank you. Please just clap for them as I mention their names as well. QS Emmanuel Ogbomo, also a past chapter chairman of Edo State Quantity Surveyors. We also have QS Alan Omorogbe, past chapter chairman, NIQS Edo State. Please clap. We also want to recognize a past chapter deputy chairman of Edo State, QS Emmanuel O.U. Ugbede. Please a round of applause for him. As well as QS Solomon Aegbogun. These gentlemen here have made this particular event today a successful one, if I may say, by the works they've done in the past. Not just that, they've actively supported the current Senate of this Edo State chapter in bringing this event to life. And we'll say thank you and we appreciate you. Thank you for working us also to Edo State. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll please write at this point in time to welcome up here for a welcome address the #1 quantity surveyor in Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, please join me as I welcome up here our president of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, QS Michael Olaimi Shonubi.
Please sit down. Please. Thank you very much. It's indeed, yes, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Edo State, the Executive Governor of Edo State, His Excellency Godwin Obaseki, ably represented here by our own sister, ESV Isoken Omo. I hope I got that right, ma? Yep, thank you. Well, she's a surveyor just like we are. We are happy to have you here with us. I think we have in our midst also the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Water Resources. Are you here? Oh, thank you very much, sir. QS Joseph Yamali is one of us. We are glad to have you with us. Please come forward. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the chairman of Edo State's chapter of Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Ojegba Iroro. Thank you for coming, and thank you for associating with us. We are all in the same built environment. When the compare was listing the past chairman of the chapter, I don't remember whether I had the name of QS Imen Osahon, as well as Shola Aragon, who was also a past chairman of the chapter, and I think Ubefu and Ufwa. There are quite a number of people that have contributed to the sustainability of NIQS in Edo State. I recognize each and every one of you, and I thank you all very much for the support you have given our chairperson, the indefatigable Jane Fregene. She's done a wonderful job. Please, let's put our hands together for her. Since I stepped into Benin on Tuesday, the reception has been so warm that I feel like relocating to Benin permanently. And the great Esama of the universe spoiled me, and I'm sure a lot of us yesterday, and almost wanted us all to stay back in Benin, so that Benin seems to be a good place in terms of culture, in terms of the warmth of the people. So please, on behalf of all the Quanitity Surveyors in Nigeria, and those, particularly those gathered here, Madam, I want you to extend our sincere gratitude to the governor and the people of Edo State for the warm reception we have received since coming here. Yes, we also thank His Excellency for asking you to represent him here. We know you, that shows that you appreciate what we do and what we are able to bring to the table to enable His Excellency achieve his dream for the development of Edo State, this state full of culture, the heartbeat of the nation. I hope I'm right. And we want to commend him for all the great infrastructural projects that he's been doing, the agri-premium projects, the Edo land, I think the one that has to do with education, that has made Edo State Edo best. Because I remember, I think the Lagos State governor had to come here to come and understudy that Edo best, because it's made Edo one of the states with the least out of school children. And I think for that, I think it deserves a lot of commendation. If all our state governors can afford to keep children in school, some of the issues of banditry, kidnapping, and so on that we have in this country probably will be a thing of the past. Because most of the kids doing this are kids who never went to school. And there is nothing they know other than violence and banditry and all kind of criminal activities. So we commend the governor for that. Yes, I think it's also the only state that's been lucky to have 2 modular refineries that are almost operational and working. So yes, Edo is working. The heartbeat of the nation is working. So we commend the governor for that. On that note, I would like to sincerely welcome you, Ma, to this workshop, and hoping that some of the things we are discussing here will enrich governance in Edo State. As you can see, the theme of our workshop is actually managing construction projects in turbulent times. And like we have been discussing since yesterday, these are indeed turbulent times. And like one of our resource persons reminded us yesterday, it will likely be with us for a long time. So we need to begin to prepare to ensure that we have all the necessary machinery in place to ensure that we become more resilient to the turbulent times and we're able to overcome and deliver for the benefit of the general masses of this great nation. Thank you, sir, Madam, for coming. God bless you.
Please, a round of applause for the president once again. He is our number one president. He leads and would follow. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for that wonderful speech. And we'll thank you for your leadership. I cannot but reference your statement concerning yesterday. at the SEMA. And Oba Atokpe. Come on, man. Oba Atokpe. Oba Atokpe. I'm selling my market. His Excellency is seated here. You don't know whether from here, I'm just going to go with her as we are going, so I can handle the next event. So please, I'm selling market. Oba Atokpe. I have to do it right. If you don't think, yeah, in turbulent times, any opportunity you have, you market. You understand? His Excellency is laughing, you know, and I'm sure we're in the realm of the spirit already. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we know so many of you here will have wanted to give good messages and things like that, but we also do not want to keep our dear Commissioner heavily representing the governor for too long. So please, ladies and gentlemen, with a standing ovation, I would like to welcome up here to declare this ceremony open and also for a message, His Excellency Mr. Godwin Obaseki, heavily represented by the Commissioner, Ministry of Physical Planning and Housing, Urban Regional Development, Benin City, Honorable Isoken Omo. Please clap very well, please. My future might depend on this clap. Please clap very well.
Thank you very much. Please, let's be seated. Thank you. It's always good to represent the governor, because then you can do a lot of things and get away with it. So, thank you very much. But it's also a lot of responsibility, because you also have to be careful what you say, how you say it, and how it is perceived. I would like to please stand on the protocol already well established, because I don't want to offend anybody. My name's, like they said, Isoken Omo. And I'm the Commissioner as at today for Physical Planning, Housing, Urban and Regional Development. It's actually the longest name in the ministries, you know, because we've tried to put everything together because of the way we're working. We want to have clarity and make sure we know where we're going. So we've tried to put things that are similar together to make sure that we get to where we want to go. I bring greetings from my boss. He really wanted to be here, but he had to travel yesterday. He wasn't sure he was coming. This morning he came in and he has to still travel again. So, because he actually takes the members of the built environment very seriously. Edo professionals in the built environment, am I lying? Am I lying? He takes them very seriously, because really, everything we do here depends on our land. Everything. That whatever service we want to provide. And if then it is not managed properly, we will be in trouble. And the people to manage it and make sure that land continues to give us the value that we need for the environment. So very early on, we started engaging with them. I don't think there's anything going on that we don't call them. I'm sure a lot of them think we call them too much. I, for one, I just keep calling them, because I really can't do anything without them. So, thank you very much for the work you do. We are not yet where we want to be. There are a lot of things they say Edo is working. Yes, if you are coming from a comatose place, then it's a major leap. But knowing where we want to go, we are not there yet. So, there's a lot of work still to be done. We are at the finishing part of our tenure. We have just about 14 months to go. And so we're trying to put everything together and close. We don't want to be in a position where we're living like we don't know what we're doing, like we didn't know the day was coming. We're very aware of November 11, 2024. And so everything we're doing now is to finish strong, to close the transactions, finish the projects, put things together, make sure the processes are in place, the laws are in place, so that whoever is coming will not decide to go another route. Because that is what has not worked for us in Edo State. Lagos State has that because you've had consecutive consistency for over 20 years. And even if you're doing a wrong thing, if you keep doing it for 20 years, it will look right. Am I correct? Yes, because you've been on it for a long time. So we want to make sure that we leave the place with a clear understanding. And how does that concern you here? Your team says managing construction projects in turbulent times. When you are going through what Nigeria is going through at the moment, every penny counts. Every penny. I went to fill my car 2 days ago, and I had to buy for my jerry can, for my generator. And so I said, fill everything, and they said, Madam, it's 82,000. 82,000! So my driver, we come to work on Monday, he forgets to carry my food flask. He said, Madam, can I go back? I said, you can't go back home. You cannot go. You mean you want to carry my fuel back to go and carry flask? Leave the flask. Leave it, leave it. That's the reality. It doesn't matter how much you have. The truth is your money can no longer give you what it used to give you. So you are going to have to make choices and decide what is your foregone alternative and what is the best value for your money. And also, not only that, most of the materials for construction are outside your control. Somebody else decides. This is how it's going to be. So you are continuously trying. So the bill you provided today, you have to caveat it. To say this bill, subject to A, B, C, D. Okay? Because the cement man can decide enough is enough. In short, it's 10,000. So it then means that you have to have a very close relationship with your principal, the owner of the project. You have to have a good relationship with the market. You have to also try and get some money up front to lock certain things down, because there are key elements in construction that once price hits it, every other thing goes up. And then you have to make sure that you are efficient to finish on time. Because if you are able to cut the cost, the time of construction, then you might be able to manage some of these variables. And then you have to make sure that the price still remains relevant for the market to continue to buy, to patronize you. So there are a lot of things. And all of what this, remember, I've not mentioned the impact of government, laws, policies, procedures that would also impact, that are outside your control. So we're in very, very unique times that only the very good will survive. That is the truth. A lot of us, if we're not careful, will be out of business. But it is not all bad stories. Because the most profitable Hilton hotel I know is in Afghanistan. Where things are bad, you make more money. There's always a way. And Nigeria is not any different. Some of the indices in Nigeria scare me. But so how are we still even surviving? How are we still standing? We should be, bankrupt, plates, hands begging, but we are not. The flights coming to Benin are full. I bought my ticket, 219,000. Economy. So there's something else moving our economy apart from the economic indices. There has to be something else. And so we also have to look at those things and put them in place. And there is no more time than today to be a professional in the built environment, because lack of professionalism will impact us much, much more than what we're seeing now. So I think our jobs are cut out for us. But one thing also that is cut out for us now is the fact that we need one another. And that is the song I keep singing. I go to engineers, I tell them. I go to the estate surveyors, I say to them, architects, town planners, landscapers, everybody in the built environment, we need one another. Nobody is a jack of all trade. That is what is killing us. And that is where we run into more trouble. We need to stay in our space and be the best we can be in our space. And we need to tell our people, our land is finite. It's not going to grow. Whatever we're doing on it, we must make sure that we are keeping it efficient. And in keeping it efficient is giving your client the best advice. Make sure that your cost and everything is professional and is done properly, but make sure that your colleagues you need are represented. In the construction field, the builders are there, the architects, the engineers, everybody doing his own part so that we can get optimal value from whatever comes out as the finished product of our construction process. So I would not like anybody to despair. A lot of money is to be made. but it has to be done properly. So how does that concern us in Edo State? At the moment, there are a lot of changes going on in the physical environment. We're doing a lot of things. But when we came, we realized that if we do not plan, this Edo of our dreams that we sing every day will always be in our dreams. We would not experience it. So we paused and looked at the master plan that we had to try and match it with what was on ground. And the correlation was not more than 30%. So we said, everybody stop. We're in trouble. We're consciously creating slums, and it's only going to come and haunt us. From what is happening in Nigeria, it is only clear that we need to fall back to our local areas. There's no gainsaying about it, and there's no two ways about it. It's no longer the Abuja story. It is going to be the Lagos story, the Oshogbo story, if wherever your capital is, that's where your story will be. Because if you don't do it, a day will come, you might not be able to go to Abuja, maybe because of a bad road. You will have to sit in that place that is yours, where nobody can drive you. And if it is not optimal, then you will not be able to get value, both for your investment and for yourself. Because if it's going to take you 10 hours to leave your house and get to work, and then another 5 hours to come back, you will now decide which day you want to go to work. Am I correct? So it is important that we start looking inwards, looking at ourselves, and then celebrating that thing in us that is unique. And so in doing that, we said, no, stop. Because if we kill this Benin and the other cities, we have nowhere to go. So let's look back at the master plan and make it fit for what the reality on ground is telling us. We have a very young population. I know Nigerian youth, there's something, we get as them be. I've moved away from there, but you get as them be. You understand? Their body, they hot. So we need to make sure that all of this thing inside is contained and channeled properly so that we can get value. We can understand their needs. We can understand what they want from us. We can understand how to help them get to where they are supposed to be, because we're going to leave this place for them. So what do? Let's make sure that what we are developing, the environment actually replicates what we want to do and how we want to grow. So we started with the Edo State Regional Development Plan and Benin City Master Plans. They were flagged off, launched in May 2021. We've called the members, we've called everybody, all the stakeholders to have a look. We started with members of the built environment. Tell us, this is what is on ground, this is where we are, but this is where we want to go to. How do we get there? And which is the cleanest way to get there? Faster, less expensive, and still keeping the chastity of the master plan. So we've done the inception report, stage 1, phase 1 and phase 2. We are now in phase 3, which is really now we've defined our vision, where we want to go to. It's a 30-year plan, all that. Now we need to sit down with people and say, okay, this is what it is according to the sectors. In tourism, this is what it's looking like. In infrastructure, this is what it is. In health, in education, this is what we are seeing. Is that okay with you? And we have broken them into 5 years smaller plans, so that you remember, as long as infrastructure development goes on, things will change. So in 30 years' time, what you have today will not be what we should be having. So we need to make sure we return every 5 years. So that's what we're doing. I will pick Benin City particularly because Benin City is 65% of the state as far as population is concerned. About 2.5 million people live in this city. In now 5 local governments. A place that used to be 1 local government. Now it's 5 local governments that constitute Benin City. And it's growing without a lot of control. So it is important that we do it right, so that people that are coming from the rural areas will not need to come here if we make sure that they have the services that they need where they are. So that's what we are, where we are now. So what we've done now, we've come to the stage 3. We're now engaging back, bringing it back to you guys to say, this is what it is. Look at it. Will it work? Can we do it? What do we need to put in place to make sure it works? So we're going to put in the laws. We're putting it in our curriculum. So as our children are singing beautiful Edo, they know that in 3 years' time, road should pass this place. If road does not pass, then the governor tell us why the road is not passing. Okay? If it's in agric, this is what we should be. So it is in public domain. Not this secret document that you do in a shelf, tie it with ribbon and hang it. No, it's a living document. So that's what we're doing. And a lot of you here are involved. We call you, we tell you. We're still going to call you again to do an expanded town hall and let everybody see what we're doing. The thing about the government now is we try to be open so that you can look at it. We're not perfect. We'll make mistakes. Yes, but this is who we are. We're not, it's not mysterious because we're only as strong as. I think it's working. Have I talked too much? Should I go? Because I don't get an opportunity to have the national president sitting and I'm looking at him. So I'm going to tell him my mind today. So permit me. And also I'm not mindful of the fact that I'm standing here as the governor. So I'll still stretch that a little bit. But I think it's necessary that we all know where we are. Because also in my talking, you will see the opportunities that are there as well. As professionals. So that's what we're doing. Another thing that we've done is, we've done a lot of changes at the ministry because we've tried to make sure that the members of the built environment understand that this is their ministry and they are important. Before I came, the ministry was full of just town planners. How is that possible? It was like a cult. Because I don't know how only town planners will decide if a drawing is okay. I don't know. Who will go to site and inspect that the building is being built? To specification, to design. I said to them, no, this is impossible. I am an estate surveyor. When we all come to environmental sciences, we all have electives. Is it not so? I have a little bit of law in my pocket. A little bit of architecture, even though I was driven from the class severally because I can't draw, but I passed. A little bit of quantity surveying so that my estimates that they are giving me understand what's happening. I go with my theodolite to the road to try and make sure I can get, And then we did all that town planning. We did everything. Is it not so? Even the engineers, we came to you because we almost understand how everything fits together. For us to be able to operate in the areas we choose, just as in medicine, you have to do general affairs before you specialize, whether it's the heart you're interested in, or the stomach, or wherever, or the hand, or the bones. But you first of all must have the rudimentary foundation to be able to understand how the human body is framed. And that is how the built environment is. For you to be able to work effectively, you must understand what your other parts are doing, but it doesn't make you to become a professional. No matter how many classes I went to the quantity surveyor, I am not a quantity surveyor. So when I go to the field and start acting like a quantity surveyor, the problem arises because there's how far I can go. There's some other secrets they tell you in the class I did not attend. Is it not so? It's true. The same thing like an estate surveyor. So we need to understand this is who we are. So we've changed a lot. In our office, we have quantity surveyors. Edos, are you here? That's my head of our office. He's in housing. All our estimates go to him. I said, Edos, you need to know this thing. You need to be able to put your foot down. We can't be giving contracts here and everything. You have to know what is happening. And what to do, you have to tell us first, this is how much it's going to cost us before we allow the contractor come in and do his own. And then when people even come for issues, we have issues with them, with their building, I say, Edos, come. When they're going to site, go with them. You are unique. You are important in this ministry. And that is how it is with the architects, with everybody. And now I think we're learning to work together to know that we need one another for physical planning to work. So that's what we've done. And that thing we've done, we finally have our laws. Because you find out a lot of times, most states will not domesticate the town and country planning laws. So we're using it at the federal level. But this year we have 2 laws. The town and country planning law is out for Edo State. And then we have the Edo State Development and Building Control Law. It's a feat for me. because it's taking them nearly 30 years. We just celebrated Edo at 32. It's taking us 32 years for us to have a law. But without the law, can we move forward? No. So out of this law now, we are now doing a housing policy. We're now doing all the other policies we need. Land administration policy. And all of, because the land use house on its own cannot be just taken and dropped in Edo. We are peculiar. We have our peculiarities. We're in the middle of the rainforest. So the way we manage our land is totally different. And our people, our body, they hurt. You understand? So we need to understand and put that dynamics in our design. So we're doing all this and putting processes so that when you come, you understand. This is how we work. And then you can work with us and we can get to where we're going. So we've done that as well. And then not only that, we are now having hubs in Edo. So we have the tourism hub. We start with the Museum of West African Arts, just where the old hospital used to be. That was where the old palace was. A lot of people don't know that. Before the invasion of 1897, that was where the palace was. It was after that it was destroyed. The palace is now moved to the other side of the ring road. So it was only up for the museum to go back there. And we've had archaeologists here who have come and opened up, and we have seen the old city. It's incredible what is going on. And so the UK government and the German government said, we will fund it for you. So people can come. Our history is too rich for us to disregard it. So from there, you know, the moats come out of it, all the way to Igun Street, to Ogiame Palace, all the way there is our tourism hub. So that is the project we're doing now. So we're going to open all that. So you can come to Benin and take a walk and understand how our people are coronated and things like that. So that's that. On the other end, we have the health hub, down where Stella Obasanjo is. We now have School of Nursing there. The Stella Obasanjo itself, the movement of Central Hospital is there. And just across, coming to Dumez, is where we have the health school. So all that anything to do with health, we're putting it together. So that way, there's economy of scale, is less expensive, and people can get the service they need quicker without having to traverse everywhere. We have the technology hub. So Victor Waifo Center is there. There's the tech park at Wire Road. And then we are opening a big one in Benin Technical, that area. So that way, everything technology. Most of the people you see in technology in Nigeria today are being trained here in Edo. They are being trained here. So we have the industrial hub, the enterprise park at Iyamo, and then at Utesi. Most of the doors you buy are produced in Benin. The tiles are produced here. GP tanks are produced here. Glass that you buy in Lagos, they are all produced in Benin. There is 24 hours power there. Every day. People don't know this, but we have that. The Chinese are here, sitting with us, and producing. So our people are employed. When we came, we had a huge unemployment, but we drastically reduced it. Now they are creating the infrastructure hub. And that's what concerns us. And it's at Old Water Resources, where you have Edo GIS. You know that place? In front of our ministry will be there. Roads and bridges is just down the road. So if you want to do anything to do with the physical environment, you know where to come to. So we're creating this education hub at Iyaro is being built. So we're doing all this so that whatever interest you want in Edo, because of our unique location, that you cannot traverse the north, south, east, or west without passing us, we want to make sure when you pass, you stay. We have something to offer you. So there's enough jobs for quantity surveyors to do for the next 30 years. So you have to work with us, because we recognize your importance and we're not going to water it down. Your colleague is in water resources. Am I lying, Yamale? We are opening Coral City. We opened it today. I was in the news this morning telling people, this is the new town. It's no longer a mirage. We have designed it. We are providing you 24 hours power, water, light, internet connection. You will be there. We went to Taiwan, and on the road you can get internet. You can get internet on the road in Coral City. You'll get it. Because we've put the fiber optics around the whole state. So you will pick your internet from anywhere. By tomorrow, we are going live. Paperless in Edo. You cannot bring paper. No. From tomorrow, we will not take, even I've already stopped since yesterday. Don't bring document to me. If you cannot get me online, sorry. Because that is where the world is. I went to the UK, I could not see a GP. They say go online to book. First of all, they will triage you first. Then you will book. They will not send you a message. You now choose your time. They will not send you a confirmation. You better be there. 5 minutes later, somebody else. That is where the world is. And we are still carrying paper. These things ought not to be so. It comes with your estimates as well. You need to come up. Because you are competing with people who can do this estimate on the internet. They don't need you. They just say, give me the parameters, and you just see one bill. You are wondering, they've done it. AI is there. So we need to up ourselves and match ourselves with technology. We can all do this thing if we work together. We're here and we're willing to work with you. We've shown that in our different activities that we're willing to work with you, and we cannot do this thing without you. And that is all I keep saying. We cannot do it without you. So we thank you for coming to Edo. We're very warm people. So you've talked about the summer. I would like to host you if you don't mind before you go. You know? Because our plan is when you come to Edo, you stay. As you stay, you spend something. When you spend something, we are all okay. Have you not been so? So we say it as it is. We have no apologies. But we are here, and we're here to make sure that everybody who is contributing their own quota for the progress of Nigeria, and Edo State particularly, gets the benefit of putting in the time. So, sir, without much ado, I would like to declare this workshop open. And we're looking forward to receiving the communique. And I assure you, I know my governor. I don't say it with any guile. Something I forgot. Can I just say this before, please? Sorry, just one. You know I'm the governor, so no sorry. Sit down, sit. Something I forgot to say. But I think it's very important because I want to say thank you. Knowing that we want to do this, and because we have transferred in civil service, or we're transferred, we're not yet there, but we're on our way. We wanted to now grow people who will take over. So we have our first Grow 100. So we are employing architects, quantity surveyors, land surveyors, town planners, estate surveyors. Where's my brain now? Well, everybody in the built environment. So I called my colleagues, the chairman of the built environment. Am I correct? And I said to them, we're going to employ these people. So I need you guys to work with me. Send me criteria of what you think we should have for trainees according to your professions. Send to me. They did. They said, because we work with you. And based on that, we put it out on the internet. We say to everybody, apply online. We don't want that copy. Send us so that let's make sure you are the fit and proper person, because it's technology. They've done it. The next thing we send you, we are going to do the CBT. Is that correct? Please send us the questions. Am I correct? And you send the question. On Tuesday, we'll have the test. After that, we employ 100 of them. We intend to employ 300, but we'll do the first 100. And we are putting in our time to train them in this 1 year. So they're going to be located in this new town. Everything we are doing from groundbreaking will be part of it. They will learn. We are bringing people from everywhere to train them, abroad, local. We'll be calling all of you, come and talk to, tell them. We will learn the technology. So we'll let them out September next year, prepared out there to do this work. They are smart, they are young, they are technology savvy, and they are channeling it in the right way. So I want to thank all of you that contributed. Thank you. Thank you. Because we gave them very short time, and they did it. That is the kind of collaboration we're talking about, that this thing is possible. So when we are employing people now, do you feel alienated? No. You know what is happening. You also tell people, go and apply. You're going to take people, apply. Is it not so? So we keep working together. I just want you to understand that we are here, and that is the way to go. There is no secret. We want you to know this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it, and if you merit it, you will get employed. Everybody who applied to a first class graduate, we've already taken them. We took them. No questions asked, nothing. We just took them because we want to celebrate our own. I want to give everybody opportunity. We've increased salaries, and my governor has said it's okay. Once we go live, we're going to increase the salary again. Because they removed fuel subsidy. We have told government to bring our money. We'll put it on the salary so that we can attract the right people in civil service, because it is the heartbeat of governance. So, based on those few words of mine, I would like to declare this workshop open, and please ask Mr. President, do come again before we leave, because there's a lot you have not seen about Edo. Edo is like onion, but not the one that hurts the eye. As you keep opening it, you keep seeing good things. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Madam. A round of applause for His Excellency, Governor of Edo State, represented by the Honorable Minister Isoken Omo. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please keep clapping. Keep clapping. Keep clapping, please. Keep clapping. Oba Atokpe. All right, have your seat. Have your seat. Wonderful. Wonderful speech. Wonderful speech. I'll allow everybody to take it in. Let it sink in. Let it sink in. You know, let it sink in. I saw a lot of people taking notes and everything like that. His Excellency, I'm also a quantity surveyor, ma. So let it not be that you think it's only this microphone. I'm also available for this employment. I know you've taken the first class. You've taken the first class candidates already. I'm also a first class. My president here can attest to it. In a micro manner, not in a macro environment. You understand? Oba Atokpe. I need to come back to Edo again. Please, please. All right. Thank you so much, man. That was wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, it brings me honor to welcome up here for a vote of thanks. Incoming. Somebody say incoming. Our Deputy President, please. QS Kene C. Izekwe, Deputy President of NIQS, to give the vote of thanks. Thank you.
His Excellency, the Governor of Edo State, ably represented by the Honorable Commissioner, Physical Planning, Housing, Urban and Regional Development, Honorable Isoke Omo. You know, I was wondering if you had a written speech, but when I looked at properly, you spoke for close to an hour extempore. Then I concluded that yes, indeed, the governor didn't make a mistake. Because not too many people are gifted in the manner that you delivered yourself this morning, ma. You spiced this conference, this workshop meeting. Everybody, you held us bound. Everybody was glued at you, ma. Because you dished out the right words. So we are so very grateful to you for honoring this invitation and also representing the governor excellently very well. And there's nothing like giving people hope. You give us hope that even in the next 30 years, we'll have something to do here in Edo. I am going to take permission from my president, whether if he will allow me to relocate to Edo State, man. But we are very so grateful to you and to the governor himself, because since we've been here in Edo State, it's been showers of hospitality. Showers of hospitality. Everything you said here is true. There is no politics in it, because we have experienced it firsthand. And like you said, you saw the theme of our workshop, managing construction projects in turbulent times. Indeed, we are in turbulent times, and it's not only restricted to Nigeria, it's a global trend. And with people like you who have had who have the privilege to be in position, there is hope that we're going to surmount it. If not surmount it, we'll find a way to work within and also work well and live well. So we thank you, Ma. And we want to continue to, like Oliver Twist, we would like to ask that since you have accepted to work with Quantity Surveyors, please enlarge the scope. Let the other commissioners know the importance of using people who have the expertise in resource management. Because the resources are scarce, and you need the people who have the technical wherewithal to be able to rescue government from mismanaging the little or scarce resources. So we thank you, Ma, and we also say that we send our best wishes to the governor. And as you have declared this event open, we know that everyone who has had the privilege to attend this workshop, we have an engineer who came from NDDC also, who is here. I know that he came purposely so that he can also upscale his own knowledge, just like every one of us who is seated here as quantity surveyors are doing. So we look forward. Somebody whispered to me yesterday and said, after you have enjoyed all this, can you now consider Edo for the next BGM? I said, well, it doesn't depend on me. I said, it doesn't depend on me. But now that you have whispered to me, I will take it back to Abuja and ask them that the thing we got in Edo, if we return a second time, I'm sure we'll get a double fold. So on behalf of the president of NIQS, we most sincerely and most profoundly express our gratitude. We thank you very much, Ma, and we wish you and Edo State all the best as we deliver the dividends of democracy to the good people of Edo State. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Deputy President of NIQS, for that vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, we have in our midst for recognition the Director, Utility Infrastructure and Waterway, NDDC, Port Harcourt, Engineer FN Ogbede, Fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. It was there from 2019 to 2022. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, two things we're going to do. We're going to have the national anthem to close this official ceremony, and immediately thereafter, we're going to have a group picture here by His Excellency, the President, members of National Executive Council will come up here, down there, for the group pictures as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, if it's okay, can we all rise? As we take the national anthem, and thereafter we'll have group pictures for His Excellency, the National Executive Council right in front here, and thereafter we'll move out and continue with the rest of the technical paper. The national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you. Can we all be seated? President, His Excellency, please move forward for a photograph.
Chairman of Edo.
There's no mountain too great. Hear these words and have faith. He lives in you. He lives in me. He watches over everything we see. Into the water, into the truth, in your reflection, he lives in you.
Just tell them we'll come back to the questions at the conclusion.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll please move in quickly back to the technical session, very quickly. And that is on project management methodologies and project planning control. I believe we have our resource person available for this. Yeah, I know. I just want to. Is the resource person available for that? Is the resource person?
Yes. Go ahead and take it. She can take it.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. I say a lot of people want to relocate to Edo State. It's not a problem. We are together. I'm even here already, in case you don't know. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, our next resource person has about 18 years of experience in cost and project management practice. He has successfully provided cost and project management services to multinational brands such as Actis, Cypher, Morgan, World Bank, and the likes. He brings extensive commercial knowledge to project team leadership, having actively involved in managing diverse area of building, real estate assets, and the likes. He is a member of NIQS, QSRBN, Institute of Chartered Economics of Nigeria, Construction Management Association of America, amongst others. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me as I welcome up here to take the fifth technical session on project management methodologies and project planning control. A round of applause as I bring up QS Oluwatomi Ogundare. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes up. Please settle down. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Please permit me to stand on existing protocol because of our time. My name is Oluwatomi Ogundare, and we will be taking a look at the theme, which is the Managing Construction Project in Turbulent Times, from project management perspective. I believe that a good number of us, as much as we are quant surveyors, we also have opportunities, and also projects that we're managing as project managers. And And that's what we'll be looking at today. Yesterday, we started the program with, the workshop with looking at how macroeconomic variables, how it affects our project. So we concluded that project management, macroeconomic indices influence the way our project performs. So today we'll be looking at how the project environment...
Hello, sorry, please. Delegate members standing at the back, you are really actually interfering. Nobody should be standing in the hall. Can you all please have your seats and please have some form of decorum, please. Servers at the back also, please. Thank you, sir. You can continue.
All right. So we'll be looking at today's construction project environment and the dynamics. We'll look at the PM technologies approaches and techniques, tools and techniques. We'll look at how we can apply some of the principles, some of the frameworks in agile methodologies to improving project outcomes and some new ways of working. So I was talking about some of the points made yesterday because it's quite critical that we retain them as we move along. As much as, so the influence there, I want us to take note, the influence there is talking about what triggers turbulent times on our project. They can be triggers, they can be those factors we need to watch out for if we really want to keep our projects from being chaotic. I believe we know the role of the project manager, so I won't take a lot of time on that. So the first item that we have there, that is EEF, is enterprise environmental factors. Those enterprise environmental factors, we see X and are there. So the macroeconomic variabilities, as much as they influence project performance, those are the categories of external factors that affect the project. I want us to take note. Please, I will call that section macro turbulence, which is turbulence coming as a result of global or national economy, and it's impacting the project. We've talked about that, removal of subsidy, scarcity of cash, and some of the macroeconomic policies of the country. So those are external. However, this may not allow us to really see. So the reason for those divisions is to allow us to see that some of the turbulent times that some projects are going through are not necessarily caused by those items. We'll get there. They are caused by what I call micro turbulent times as a result of incompetencies or negligence of certain factors that are part of the enterprise. As project managers, we have the project organization comprising the teams, the client team, the contractors team, the subcontractors to the contractor, the suppliers. So it's a whole set of organizations that are carrying out the project. So if there are inadequacies in their processes, their delays can trigger delays in many other organizations in the way they perform their works. So enterprise environment is a risky terrain. So it's important that we know that we can actually manage or have a sort of resilience to external macro turbulence if we really have the right people in. So we'll look at some of the factors that constitute internal enterprise environmental factor. So on the other side of it, we have the internal OPAs. OPAs are organizational process assets. Organizational process assets. That's telling us that sometimes the issue is not with the macroeconomic indices or variabilities. The issue may be with the framework, the approach that we adopt in executing projects. And so when the approach is wrong, we will be measuring the wrong outcome. We will not be getting the right results. So sometimes, and the approaches, the OPAs are in two categories. We have the processes, the policies, the procedures. Now, the processes is talking about, now in construction, we're familiar with it, with the when you have the waterfall, we have the initiation, which is the time the client will decide the project, and then we have the planning, then we have the execution, we have the control, we have the monitoring. So those are the processes we follow. Or to be specific, we say, the first thing is the client will give you a brief, we give the architect a brief, and then the team will come together, prepare the design. That's the framework, that's how we work, that's the process that we are familiar with. So that process sometimes can trigger, that's the point, can trigger micro turbulence times within our project. And we may be wrongly attributing such turbulent times to macroeconomic problems. So we must be discerning in driving our projects to success by understanding these key influences. Then on the other side, we have the corporate knowledge base. That's referring to inputs to our processes. For instance, your inventory methods, your how the company carries out its sourcing of vendors and the rest. So those also affect organizational goals and objectives. That affect can also trigger certain outcomes in our project. So what are the external factors? Now, these external factors we're talking about to project organizations that are not within the control of the project team. The first one is difficult economic climate. We've talked about that. I won't take more time. Funding or project finance can create turbulence for projects. We know legal restrictions. We know that if there is a project and then there is one of the landowners come and the case is in court, the project can face a turbulent time because of such legal issues. Industry databases, which means the reference that formed input to the planning process, can also can create certain turbulence within the project. Security challenges or deep-rooted public issues. We had answers, or we've had some cases of kidnap. Whenever there's a kidnapping on a project, or maybe one of the staff is kidnapped, definitely the project will have to go through certain form of turbulence, which means that there may be stoppage of work, there may be some claims. So it's important that we also take note of that. Those factors are external to the organization that are carrying out the project, which is not just the client. All right, so we have the government over-regulations. Sometimes, those that are familiar with Lagos, what's happening in Lagos, last time we had a collapse in Banana Island, the government gave a blanket order that all RIS construction within Banana Island should be put on hold. So meanwhile, you don't have, maybe the projects don't have any issues with that. So we can have, sometimes government over-regulations can impede or can create certain turbulence. Because there are some contractors, if you stop them for a day, it's millions of dollars that you're going to pay. I believe the grade A contractors charge heavily for their preliminary. So it's very important. So such factors create turbulence for projects, on projects. We also have industrial crisis. That's when workers go on strike. We have market conditions. We have the terrain of the project can also create trigger. I'll call them trigger turbulence within the project. So these are internal enterprise environmental factors. That is, they are within the organizations. These triggers are within the organizations of companies or contractors or designers or architects that are performing the works, that are engaged in the project. First is the organization culture. Now, a company with positive work culture will always have motivated employees. So when the company that is within the company, when a project manager is managing a project, now what we are going through now is setting a background to some of the case studies we are going to be going through, and all of us are going to make, will allow us to make input. So, but this is the world view from which we need to approach the problem so that we can really get to the root of the issues. So we have the organizational culture, then we also have the structure. The structure is referring to the mechanisms the companies have put in place, the management has put in place for monitoring and oversight of the staff, where they are performing their works. The tools they use, the locations of the project, the time zones, how far the site is, from the head office. Sometimes that can affect the quality of staff that goes to such places and create some qualities that triggers turbulent issues, resource availability and employee capability. I believe we know that. So incompetence can be a trigger of turbulence within a project. All right. So the hope here is that we have on the other side, I said there are organizational process assets. So these are the processes. We are going to need these processes as we go along. Please take note, because we are going to cover a bit of waterfall and agile methodologies. So this is the process. These are the processes we are familiar with. So I'm not going to take much time on that. And then the organizational repositories. Those are informations that we make references to. While now we want to prepare approximate estimates. Sometimes you make reference to some of the past projects. So sometimes those can trigger turbulence on project, because sometimes in a very chaotic environment, the fact of the past may not necessarily predict the future. Because, okay, especially, projects operates in business environments. And business environments are non-linear environments. They are, there's a way they self-organize, so it's important that we are aware of the dynamics of the environment in which our projects are situated. So I'm not going to go through too much of this. So we have the labor hours, incurred costs. Those are records that contractors, project managers keep, defect management data, and some of the archival data. So the first question I have for us is it possible, because we have so many questions like that, I want to keep it very brief. Is it possible for a project, before we get here, okay, is it possible for a project to be successful from scope, schedule, and budget viewpoint, and for the same project to be unsuccessful from business viewpoint? We'll take just 2 feedbacks before we move to the next one. Just 2 responses. What's our thoughts on that question?
We have the microphone here. A question is on the board, please. Is anybody willing to give a shot? Okay.
I thought everybody wants to respond, but since I've not seen any hand, let me say something. This is very possible because scope, schedule, and budgets are the parameters of project management. But business view, this is whether it is viable. Am I going to make money because I'm going to build a concept, or I'm going to build a project in Edo? Am I going to make money out of it? Do we have, example, a marine business? Are we going to make money if we build that in Edo? But if we mark a money, 1 billion USD, to build a marine terminal within 1 year, and this is the budget and scope, that is achievable. But do we have the business views that we're going to make money if we locate this thing in Edo? Yes or no? So it is impossible. That is what it means to me.
Thank you very much, sir.
Any further
other view?
Okay, I've seen, I have to, okay, maybe we'll reserve you for another
just
time.
one.
You are a leader.
Another question is
you
coming.
should make sacrifice, yes.
My name is Nnamdi Chibeze from Ebonyi State Chapter. Yes, it's possible for a project to be successful in scope, schedule, and budget, but unsuccessful in business-wise. I'm in the real estate industry. There are projects that you will see that this project is worth 20 million naira, and if you build it here, you won't have a buyer in that environment. It can be executed, but it will be there for the next 1 to 2 years without being sold out. So it's possible for a project to be successful in scope, budget, and schedule, but business, it will be good for business.
Do we agree with him?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give you a round of applause. All right, so the next question. Is it also possible for a project to be unsuccessful from a scope budget viewpoint, but it is successful from business viewpoint? Chorus answer, do we agree? Yes. Now, this is very important. As quantity surveyors, sometimes we look at how much we have been able to keep the cost within control and losing the eye on the bigger ball which the client is looking at. So it is important that as project manager, we must understand the value of the client. And that should drive what we call project success. So in other words, that the project finished on time, that there are no variations, there are no scope changes, is not necessarily the right criteria to measure the success of a project. It can only measure the success of the project management effort on that project. And which should indicate to us that there may be something wrong in the method and in the criteria we're using to assess our success on the project. So it's important for project managers to really think about how they measure their success on projects. So we move to the next one. We have a case study. We're looking at how issues create turbulence on projects, turbulent times on projects. Project type. A residential estate comprising about 500 housing units. It's supposed to be in a first choice location assumed in Lagos State. The designs and approvals were obtained. And then there were 7 building contractors, category B contractors. They were appointed, they were engaged, proper tender was conducted, and then one infrastructure contractor was also selected. 30% advance payments were disbursed to all the contractors. The intended funding was supposed to be 40-60 equity to debt ratio. And they agreed, and okay, during the opening, about 3 banks came during the groundbreaking, and they were all part of the deal. However, so the trigger for bank to release money was supposed to be once the valuation reaches 40%. So the 3 banks were in, like I said. So this is the turbulent situation that happened. Central Bank of Nigeria issued a new prudential guideline limiting all money deposit banks the extent of loan they can issue for construction purposes. They cited issues of non-performance of existing loans. So immediately that news was published. The 3 banks that are associated with the project pulled out. And meanwhile, don't forget, advance payment has been given to the contractors. And then the other equity partners too, they were very jittery to put in their money. So the client could not pay valuation number 2 from the 6 contractors for more than 3 years. The question here is what could have been done differently to prevent that project to have been in this kind of turbulent situation. So we'll take maybe just 2 or 3. So what do we think the project manager should have done differently? Nobody knew CBN was going to issue a new policy limiting how much can be invested in real estate, how much of their portfolio, how much of their capital could be invested in real estate deal. So how could issues like this, how could the project manager have handled the issue? What could have been done differently in this scenario?
Okay.
Yeah, on this scenario, from onset, the scope of work was defined. They knew what they wanted, what they are going to achieve. And they knew the timelines for this job, for the project. From onset, if the timeline is known, the scope is known, there was nothing wrong if the budget was released up to the tune of 65%, 60% initial for the contractor on the project to purchase most of the materials that were being made for the project. You get, in that way, these issues that later arise would have been a little way prevented. It would not have affected the project in the manner it will affect the project at this time. So I think they would have been more proactive
in sourcing, the material sourcing and the contract terms.
Yeah.
All right.
The people online, I mean, are they also interested in participating?
Okay, I hope the context is very clear. The project has been awarded. They had some earlier bank commitments that they're going to fund the project, but no sooner than the project takes off, there's a new policy that scares all the banks away from the project, and then the client is in a fix. Okay, since there are no feedbacks, now I want us to watch out for this. A lot of time when contracts are being awarded, we are very, especially as quantity surveyors, we are very keen to obtain all the necessary performance bonds from the contractor, obtain advance payment bond, put contractor under certain conditions. But sometimes we don't really check the money that the client is actually relying on. Is the money really there? So there is really sometimes very poor financial approval in terms of the client. The client is not really able to exercise financial authority properly because it's really relying on third parties. So as project managers, it's important that we'll check with the client to understand what are the issues that may come in terms of funding. I believe most of us must have seen such issues before. This is real. This happened. So it actually happened. And the way to that is project managers should engage the client to understand the nature of fund. And if you ask me what I think could have been done rightly is to have faced the project. For you to have 40% of the project, you don't need to, but the issue is some of the clients have, they want to dream big. They want to do something, more than usual. They want to enter the market in a big way. But they could have done it by facing the project. If it's only 30% of the scope that the 40 can do, they should have done that first, market that, they could have acquired the land. In fact, they could have done all the approvals for the 3, but focus. Instead of having 7 contractors, they could have had only 1 or 2 and grow from there. So, and one of the things we learn about Agile is sometimes we don't really need to go all the way through because long-term plans are susceptible to turbulent times, are more susceptible to turbulent times. So the shorter the range. So if you're going to do a project, let me say for 3 years, there is no way you will grapple with it. You have to grapple with this. But if the project can be framed into timelines that are not more than a year, the project will likely be more successful. For instance, we've seen developers, you do carcass first, because before you finish the carcass, it finishes, there will be claims. There will be claims. So the contract can be structured in such a way that it can be done in phases, and then viabilities are done based on realities as at the time others are being done. Because in any case, as it's turbulent for your input, it's also going more than often during the construction. Another thing that happens during the construction phase, the anticipated revenue from the project also grows. It's not only the cost that grows. And we'll talk about that. There is need for the project manager to keep an eye on that. Because convincing a client to spend slightly more because of the changed landscape of the revenue is also a way to help the client to make better decisions. So what could have been done better here is they could have the project delivered in phases, and this is important. So this project literally failed. So they could have made a better success if the approach had been streamlined into phases. I'll move on. Number 3, there's a real estate developer who ventured into mall development. This is similar to what the brothers said. I'm sure most of us have seen event centers around areas that looked viable, and all of a sudden, for 6 months, no single event is holding in those places. So this real estate developer ventured into mall development. It was 100% owner funded, which means he paid for it. He believed in this glitch that when you build it, people will come. And that's one of the things about retail. You may not know all your tenants until you are ready to go. Because those retailers, they can't afford to keep idle funds. They can't afford to keep their capital waiting for any construction. So it's sometimes like that. So the project was designed and constructed on time and within budget. The finishing was well supervised. It was built to design and specification, but 6 months after completion, it was time for HVAC to hands off the contractor. As at then, no single retailer had signed the head of terms agreement sent to them. Some complained about location, others complained about, who is the anchor tenant? And without anchor tenant, there is no mall. Because it is the anchor tenant always pay lower. If you give all the mall to anchor tenant, that project will fail because they pay lower than the cost. So it is the other tenant that pay higher that you use to augment the inflow from the anchor tenant. So unfortunately, there was no anchor tenant and all the retailers ran away. So the developer paid everybody. He paid the consultants, he paid the developers, he paid the contractors, he paid the consultants, yet what he had in mind, his business objective was not met. There's $1 per square meter that retailers pay on their spaces. So he was not able to gather what he wanted. He was not able to attract the sort of revenue that motivated the development. So the next thing is that what could have been done differently? Let me see if we'll get contribution, because we still have a number of things. Maybe one or two. What do we think could have been done differently? The project is completed, unfortunately, because there's a lot of speculations. There's no way you will venture into a project that will not be some form of speculations. Because, don't forget, it's a research. It's always based on market research. And market is not static. That there's a need some 3 years ago does not necessarily mean that there will be the need for the same project in the next 3 years, because dynamics could have changed. Government could have moved what draws people to that area away from the area. So what are the things we feel the project manager ought to have? This is real. This happened. Yes, sir.
You see, for a project of this magnitude, there's always good for you to have stakeholder engagement so that everybody will be buying, the anchor tenant, the government, even the financiers, just like it's in the PP. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Do we agree with him? Do we agree with him?
Contrary opinion?
Thank you very much, sir.
No, this is I don't have contrary opinion, but from my own perspective, before a project is carried out, there is need to carry out feasibility and viability studies. Some project might be feasible, but it will not be viable. Before the project will be carried out, the feasibility study must have been carried out. The client might have all the money, the resources to put into a project. But do you really check whether this project, after the completion, whether it can actually pay back as expected? So if all these are not being taken into consideration, as a project manager, you have not done anything. So I believe all these are supposed to have been taken into consideration at the feasibility and viability study.
Thank you very much, sir. Do we agree with the contributions? It's very true. Now, there are dynamics. Now, the first thing is, sometimes, because quantity surveyors are not involved in the initiation phase of the project, we are only dealing with execution, and we are not, and it is one of the reasons why we are stuck with the waterfall method. If we had been involved in the feasibility, in the analysis of what prompted the area, because the problem they actually had was that the project manager did not know, that they appointed, did not know how malls work. So the way is, there's a minimum area that must have been assigned to anchor tenant for him to have wide range of groceries. It is the wide range of items that the anchor tenant has that brings footfall into the mall. So if the area is too small, there is no way the footfall will be high. So it's important that the project manager, is involved in the planning or goes through the planning to understand how the business model works. If not, if he concentrates his energy only on the execution, it might miss the greater objective that actually instigated the client's endeavor. So it's very important that QSs, we also not only prepare the bill for the work, understand the workings. there is the initiation phase, the strategic planning phase, in the river plan of work. So the earlier phases before execution, it's important that we are familiar with the output, with the reports, with the market analysis that prompted the design. Because sometimes, as we are catering for contingency during construction, sometimes we need to factor in variability in use. What will happen in case this does not happen? So, in case what the client assumed did not materialize, how are we, as project manager now, how are we going to, what else can we do? What can we do with the mall? What was our plan B? So, variabilities don't just happen to cost and external factors. It can also happen to the use of the building. It can happen to how the building is designed. Okay, so it's important that we understand the workings of the project. We have insight into what has gone before us. And this is the waterfall. This waterfall method is the conventional way of executing projects. It's linear, it's sequential, and and we start from the initiation. And it gains momentum, which means that initiation, I believe we know what that is. It's the process of starting up the project, and then we call the various designers, experts, to do the planning, and then we move to site. Then there will be supervision, and then the closing operation. Now, the problem here, the issue with this methodology, as popular as it is actually the most suitable for projects where you can know, where everything is knowable. Exactly. I believe we're familiar with known, unknown, unknown, unknown. So there are some things that are knowable, and there are some things that are unknowable. One of the weaknesses of this methodology, of this approach, is that it assumed everything is knowable. Unfortunately, in business, not everything is knowable. And see, that's what the business managers understand. Because we are very scientific, sometimes we always project, oh, if it's 5% next year, oh, let me be conservative, it will be 3% this year. Business don't always work like that. It can go from 25% to minus 75. It's very erratic. So it's important that we understand the terrain in which project works. So it assumes, like I said, that everything is knowable. And that happens also the way sometimes when there are provisionals of say, go and break it down so that there will not be variations. You see, we assume that everything is knowable, but we could have certain project context that it is impossible to know everything. So that is the weakness. So whenever there is high uncertainty in clients' objectives, or not all the information are available that are sufficient enough to engage to use this methodology, it's always the wrong one to use. I also find out that the more quant surveyors get involved in the initiation and strategic definition stage of the project, the more we see how unsuitable some of these approaches are. Now, how do we manage in waterfall? The first thing is we identify what are the factors, we analyze them, we develop strategies to take care of them, we monitor the environment for changes, and then we communicate, we implement the risk plan, then we do the, which is we issue the change order, variation order. Then that's really how it works. And what that means is that, let me go back. What that means is that if you are during the execution phase, all of a sudden you find that you need to include something. You go back to the planning mode because it's against the flow. It is difficult. It causes certain certain sort of turbulence because it stops the work sometimes. Contractor claims for extension of time. Contractors tell you, I'm going to spend longer time. You've given there'll be prolongation claims and some other. So there's a way. Changes, when there is a change, it always creates uncertainty in waterfall model. And you see, so you have to go back to planning. So we really don't want change. So it's an idea that is very prescriptive. It's an idea that believes that you can know all. It's an idea that arrogates, knowledge that sometimes it is incapable of unveiling. So it can be very deceptive to manage fast-changing terrain using waterfall method. And so it can also create certain complexity into the way we manage projects. So some of the uncertainties that materializes during projects that can create turbulence, the objectives of the owner can change. You see, waterfall assumes that this is the objective and this is a very technical approach to get it, but sometimes the very objective can change in certain conditions. So users can change. You can have a swap, where you have so many. We have customers, we also have the clients. The client is the one that pays. The customers are, the users, they are the people that use the facility. So sometimes the person to use the facility might have different requirements than what the client had envisaged before. So like in a retail environment, the tenant is the customer. The client that is paying is the developer that's paying. So the requirements are not the same. So even the client does not even know what the tenant wants. So that's a typical example to separate. So sometimes users can come in and say, we don't need all this. I want a bigger space. No, remove all this. So it's important. So those are they are what they call it, anathema. They are like things we don't want. We don't want change. We have planned it. Let's follow the plan. That's the problem of the waterfall. And unfortunately, projects are potentially chaotic because of the inherent complexity in the project sometimes. And so I've been able to, so this is telling us, I'll be very brief about this, uncertainty, we've talked about this, which sometimes there may be certain level of uncertainty in the objectives, in the goals, or in the methods. Maybe the technology is a bit strange. The team is not very familiar with the methodology. It creates certain complexity. Don't forget, there are also turbulence coming from outside. This is just within the project. These are within the project, issues within the project that trigger. So you also see, on the other one, is the complexity we are familiar with, which means that, the size of elements that must work together, interdependently. So if one does not work, it affects the workings of the other. So that is the structural complexity. So the last one is also organizational complexity, which shows that, organizations, there's organization dynamics, which says that whenever people interact, it's based on systems theory, that when people interact, the sum of the whole parts is greater than, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So when people interact, ideas come, novelties are generated that can upturn the dynamics of planning. So when our projects are not receptive to such creativity, then it creates turbulence within its own workings. So let's not move on. So, and what does all this tell us? It's telling us that because our project operates in business environment, a project manager must be able to understand the context of the project, because that will help the project manager to select the right approach, and he'll be able to make the right decision. He will be able to measure the success of his activity, not only by time, not only by how much we stick to budget, but how much, very importantly, how much he has been able to give value for money to the client. Now, on the right-hand side, the lower left, we have the simple. Simple means that, we are able to, let me give you a typical example. If we need a partition just in an office, drywall partitioning, using gypsum board and the studs, that's very simple. You can measure it. Okay, 10 square meter, contractor can go and do it. Very simple. Waterfall is perfect for that. The next one to it is the complicated. Complicated says, we can know it, but we need to probe. We need to do some investigation. Most times it's done by an expert. So we call an architect, he collects the brief, he investigates, analyzes the space, then give us a concept plan. You understand? So that involves some preliminary analysis before we can come up with a solution. You will now say, okay, yes, we need a partitioning. You see? So for those two phases on this right-hand side, for these two contexts on this right-hand side, waterfall approach works perfectly. Unfortunately, not all projects are in that category. So there may be, and that's the reason for this seminar, there may be certain instances where we need to be aware of the context in which our project operates. So we move now to, the complex. Complex means that you cannot even know it. You can know it as you go along, but you cannot know it right there and then. So there is a need for certain, for probing. Then after you have probed, you sense it. Let me give you a typical example. Let's say if you want to build a 150-room hotel. There is no way any architect can imagine the building from start to finish without a sample room. Without a sample room, the project will run into crisis. There is no People that are familiar with it will know what I'm talking about. So you must first wait, you pause the design, you build a proper sample that shows, okay, the toiletries, that shows the sundry items, that shows the furniture, the layout, the bed, the mattresses, to that detail. And from having finalized with the operators the spec that is required, then there will be next phase of the development that will now detail out. So it means that it is impossible to capture or to assume that any designer can capture all the operational requirements without a sample room. So that's an acknowledgement of complexity within that development space. And we need to do much more than that also in other sectors. There are some clients that want to do finishes, just call you, okay, I need a project manager, I want to finish up my building. So there needs to be sample, or else chances of clients being displeased or failure to achieve client objectives are very high. So under that condition, waterfall can falter if we don't make modifications to them. And these are more adaptive. So as we go along, here you can work with facts. On this other side, facts don't necessarily reflect the future. So you need to first customize, understand the requirements, model it out. So the last one is the chaotic. Chaotic means that the relationship between cause and effect is not there. You really don't know what is required. So you figure it out. So unfortunately, the problem with uncertainty is when you are planning in uncertainty long time, there's no way it will fail. So you take, a circle always looks straight when you cut it in small bits. Is that not so? A big circle, when you cut it maybe like 0.0 mm, it will be like a straight line. So that's the principle. When you have a chaotic situation, don't go the whole way. You can plan, but you need to cut your tactical strategy, make it small. Sometimes it can be a mess, like we said. So that's that. So, and what does that tell us? That understanding helps us to select the right methodology, help us to select the right approach. So when our project is on the simple, this is called Stacy Matrix, is a technique for knowing when to use other tools apart from ones we are familiar with, when to embrace other new technologies in the work we do. The fantastic thing about agile principles and waterfall principles is that they can marry each other. You can combine them to suit the results you want to achieve. Now, the simpler the project is, so the level of agreement, so, okay, let me see, the axis, the requirement. How certain is the client about this objective? Some client will tell you that time is the objective, but when you look at it, you know it's not the time. If you finish without getting the necessary stakeholder, the project's in trouble. So it's important to understand, to figure out exactly what the requirements are. How clear are they? And now, what is the level of uncertainty in what the client says he requires? The more the uncertainty, the more towards agile we must go. The client can tell you, I need a luxurious hotel, well finished. What does that mean? So how define so if you don't know, the first thing is go the agile way. Don't go the old way. Don't prepare the bill for everything. Show the man your understanding, and having established that, you have reduced the unknown. You have reduced the level of uncertainty in the objective, and then you can begin to apply. We can then apply the traditional method that we are familiar with. So the traditional is the waterfall, by the way. So the greater as it becomes complex and complicated and becomes chaotic, the more our projects will fail. I want to ask us a question. We've been talking about turbulent times. When did these turbulent times, when did it start? Okay, I read, there's what we call Pulse of the Profession, a publication by Project Management Institute. It started around 2005 or 2007. They've been publishing it almost every year. And there has not been any time that all the projects performed, by using this criteria, that they actually, in fact, more than sometimes 40% of the projects are above budget. Why? Is it because turbulence started in 2007, which means that the reality is always with us. And because we are using the wrong approach, we are using the wrong criteria to measure success. I've seen a project that went above budget by almost 20%, and the client says that is the best project he has ever done. It is the best project because it gave him the highest revenue. A client, let me give you a typical example. A client wants to do 4-bedroom duplex. He planned to sell it for 80 million naira. All of a sudden, a client came, he said, please, I need a staff quarter because I need a place for my driver to stay. And I'll pay you 150 million naira. Which one makes more money? The client will have to eat and is going to be happier than if you had achieved the earlier objectives. So we need to be adaptive in our thinking, in our measurement of project success. As project manager, I know QS can do it other way, but as project manager, we must be sensitive to what the value is to the client. So I think we've covered much of this here. Then we also have here, it's one of the ways we can also help the client to understand what is happening. Now, this is a typical cost report or financial statement. When we are reporting our costs as QSs, one of the things we can do is we won't just report variations as variations. We need to identify which variations are actually client variations. The reason why clients make variations or order for variations is because it has business value. And so when you are measuring your success, by, when you are saying your project is not, you understand, the problem is that you need to, the mechanism for measuring success must be aligned with the project objectives. So here, it's talking about, we've divided the variations we've had into 3 segments. The first segment there is the design changes. There are some design changes that are a result of coordination, poor coordination by the design team. There could be some as a result of clients directly making those change requests. And it could be as a result of the tenants. A tenant can come and say, oh, this shop is too small, I need 100 square meters. Why not open the wall? It had value. It's not a project, it's not evidence of project failure. So by dividing it, we're able to see that a bulk of the changes were actually made by the clients because it had value to him. The only portion that is attributable to design changes, is less than, what's that, maybe 10%. So the way the variability should be measured by the design changes. And by the way, we have contingencies too. So the contingencies are design contingencies. We already knew that there will be shop drawings. We knew there will be certain information that will come in any case. So why do we measure success rigidly? And next one is talking about some of the provisions that we know that are normally made, that when we have estimate, there needs to be different level of contingency to handle variabilities. When we have activity cost estimate, there needs to be some, at the level of the activity, there needs to be some contingencies. Sometimes when we measure and it's 21.1, we understand it's 21.1. But sometimes you have to make it 22 because that 21.1, the site realities can make it be 22. So you don't approximate downward, you approximate upward. It's one of the mechanisms for managing contingency that may arise. Also, we have contingency reserve. This is done by at the end of the project, you see the contingency is managed by the project manager. More and above, far above that, there needs to be what we call management reserve. It's within the preserve of the project of the client. The project manager does not control that. It's important that the clients understand that we need that to operate in this risky terrain. We've said project. So that must be there. And so when we're measuring success, we also need to factor that in. What that means is that as the uncertainty reduces in the project, uncertainty are highest at the beginning and it goes down. So as the expenditure is rising, the reality is we must make our funding resilient. Our funding must, in turbulent times, funding needs to be resilient. When funding arrangements are poor, it will affect. The same thing with the project timing. When the project timing is too ambitious, we'll be measuring the wrong metrics. Now, the first one is talking about, now, example is that we have a 30% prolongation in construction period. So if the budget, if the time had allowed for 30%, let's say they have allowed for 30%, no, this is a 30%. So because you have had a 10%, let me call them like contingency. So when there is a 20% variation, you only record minus 10. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So it's talking about, but if you had 10, it becomes minus 20. But if you had nothing, it becomes minus 30. So it will show that project management effort had failed by 30%. Meanwhile, if you had had a time buffer on your schedule, you could have reported only 10%. So that's one of the ways to manage vulnerabilities of projects during turbulent times so that we cushion the effect and it's not affecting, especially, this is very important when we're working with institutional investors. Institutional investors are extremely averse to risk. Developers are risk-friendly, so we must understand our client and their risk appetite. and design our mechanisms for measuring success in that regard. So now we go to Agile approach. Agile approach is talking about how we can carry out our project in adaptive way, incremental, cyclic, in a way that is not the plan all, do all at the same time. So it's customer-based delivery based on a frequent basis. That is, customer needs to be involved. There's feedback, there's feedback from the customers, and you are using that to fine-tune the plan. There is the Agile Manifesto, which means individual, I believe you're familiar with this, individual and interactions are prioritized over processes and tools. We like processes too much. Oh, there must be change order, you must do it this way. In Agile, if there is a change, you put it inside. It's part of the plan. So when there's a daily sprint meeting, when there's a daily review meeting, and they come, okay, now there's a change. Okay, what is the change? Is it important? Then it's part of the project. Because what defines the success is not how much changes. It is achieving the objective. So Agile techniques, they are effective for managing disruptive technologies. When the project involves certain technologies that can quickly go out of fashion. So you need to hit the market with minimum viable period as quickly as possible. So the first principle is customer satisfaction, not cost. Customer satisfaction. Even if it is delayed, provided the customer is happy, is a success. So, and also, rapid and transparent customer feedbacks are part of the loop. We'll see some of the adaptive strategies as we move along. So to stay competitive, organizations are having to hit the market as quickly as possible. Now, in some areas, you will see that a lot of construction work are happening at the same time. And if that place is saturated for any reason, it will affect those who have funding challenges or are not able to complete on time. So the earlier you hit the market and then you're out of the game, you exit, the better it is for the client. So in such environment that the client wants quick turnaround of his capital, quick turnaround of what is in the resources, it's important that we make the plan, make the approach more agile. Now, these are some of the indications of when to choose, when to adopt. Some, like I said, you can mix them. When to adopt. And also, it doesn't have to be scale-wide. It doesn't have to be project-wide adoption. It can be stage-wide adoption, which means that you can only pick initiation phase and planning phase, which you really don't have a handle on most of the requirements. You can adopt some agile practices to improve performance of that phase, and then for the execution and the rest, you can use waterfall. So when there is firm requirements and regulation, like we know during execution, LABSCA, all the building control will come up. So it's important that we follow. So it has to be waterfall. And then for high involvement from product owner, where the product owner is very involved, is available to sit on it. Where are things on such projects, you can make it more agile to enable the client to make input. Problem of waterfall is co-creativity is difficult because everyone is an expert, and this is how I think it should be. But agile is more a better creative platform approach to use for that enhances co-creativity. Then we have the new, when you have a product that is very experimental, sometimes you want to bring in customers, come and look at it. Do you like it? So the more agile, like I say, I've given an example of the hotel, how it's done to ensure that there's satisfaction throughout the chain. So it's important to know when it's experimental, and then also when there's a single line of authority, you can use waterfall. But when there are so many lines of authority and interest, so it's important to adopt more of agile so that you can get as much feedback as possible. Then when there's a firm deadline, in construction, there are what we call long lead items. You don't want to do agile with your long lead items. So those, you really need to expect the chain, the critical path that follows. So, but for the part where you are able to work around, you use agile. But when there's a firm deadline, you quickly switch back to waterfall. Flexible budgets. When you have a flexible budget, the client just wants a solution that works. Please adopt, try and see how much of agile principles can be adopted. So some of the keywords in agile, they are different from what we're familiar with. There's what we call stories. Agile stories are what we normally call project requirements. So it's a customer's way of saying, oh, I want this functionality, oh, I want this. It's called their stories. Also, what we call epics. So epics are a group of stories. So after you have collected those requirements, you group them together into packages that suit, into categories that suit that approach. So that's what we call epics. And initiatives, they are groups of epics. Quickly, how do we know when we can borrow leaf from agile principles into the waterfall that we are used to? Number one, when client wants early measurable return on investment, and he wants to do it on an incremental basis, that's the first indication. Then when there is high visibility, there is need for high visibility of progress so that input can come in from the customers, on time. You need to adopt agile principles. When you do the sample hotel, like I said, it's not only the architect that will come and contractors. Contractors will also come. They will see the fittings. You won't say, no, I didn't know this is the kind of sanitary fittings you wanted. I didn't know this is the kind of... you will see before you bid. So you reduce certainty. Operators will come. They'll look at it and say, yes, this meets our standard. You can put our logo on it. Because that also works with a lot of stakeholders. So when you want visibility, you want the team to make input, they are there. So also when you want to empower the business owners to make decisions during the construction phase. Our construction phase, once you have done the design, the last thing you want is client's change order. You really don't want it at all. So, but once the client wants to say, please, I don't know what I've requested. I want to see it. Make the project more agile. Also, when there's need to adapt to changing needs, when there's the need to go lean. Agile can be lean during uncertainties. All right, I've run enough now. What are the characteristics and how do we know? So I'll just do through here because of time. Waterfall approaches are predictive. Like I said, it assumes everything is knowable. So the goal is in managing cost oftentimes, or time in some situations. Now, Agile is not too bothered about time. It's satisfaction. You see, sometimes projects are finished, the client comes and says, this is my room, it's too small now. Or you break all these corridors, let them be bigger rooms. Because the client does not know meter square. When you say your room is 15 square meters, the client does not know. So we assume that clients can read drawings. Unfortunately, a good number of the clients don't know. They just ask, okay, is this the area? It looks fine. So when the realities come, I said, is this 10 square meters? No, this is too small. There are reworks on our project. So it's important that we picture that in. And this is some of the methods and approaches that we can adopt. The items in the darker gray, they are approaches, which means that we can use them over different stages. Planning, you can combine, you can use them for maybe more than 2 in your processes, initiating, planning. But for these other ones, you can do them within stage. They are just methods. Methods are about doing. Approaches is more about models. So this is just methods. So you can use all these lighter ones together with your waterfall because they are just methods. So we have the DSDM, which is the Dynamic Systems Development Method. We have the Agile UP, which is Agile Unified Process. We have the XP, which is Extreme Programming. We have the Kanban. I believe we have the Kanban. We have the FDD, which is Feature-Driven Delivery. And we have the Scrum. What is Scrum? You see, Scrum is also a lean approach. It's a part of the lean process. It is a framework used to manage product development. Now, there are 3 components here. The way Scrum works is this. It's very simple. You have a team. You don't make it too large. 5 to 10 persons, max. So the team will be meeting every day. So you record, what are you going to achieve today? You break the project into maybe 2-week delivery. And say this is a 2-week. Let's say it's the design phase. We are in design phase. What do we want to achieve? We want to prepare the drawing for this eatery or restaurant business. Okay. So 2 weeks, give me your drawing. You send, so they'll be back and forth and daily. Okay, what have you done? So there will be constant input from the team. Oh, I need my HVAC to be here. I need immediately you are factoring it before the result even comes out. So there are 3 essential components here. So that's what I was explaining how it works. And then there will be daily review, and then you will come together to determine the scope, to determine when to review the progress you have made. So we have the Scrum Master. It's not like the project manager. It's more of a coach, more of a facilitator, more of helping them to helping the team to work well on the platform. And then we have the product owner who is also involved in the process. We have the developer who can be valued team members who are making contributions to the development process. That can be architect, engineer, quantity surveyors. And that's the process of which it works. So there are 5 Scrum, these are components that are very important. There are 5 Scrum rituals. First is that there is Scrum grooming, which is talking about what we call backlog there. In Waterfall, we call it tasks. You know, in the Microsoft project, you type in the tasks. The tasks are called backlog in Agile environment. So you update the task because you're always open to changes. You open, okay, there's need for us to patch a wall there. Oh, saw a pipe in the wall. You can always put them in. So we also have the sprint planning. You've broken the project into sprints. We also have so then you'll be planning for each of the, so you pick a sprint, you plan for it, move to the next, you know, iteratively like that. The daily Scrum meeting is when you review the progress by each of the team meetings, by each of the team contributors. The sprint review meeting, which means every time you review the sprints, okay, do we have new work? Oh, this work is taking longer, there's a new thing, you introduce them, you bring them in. Then sprint retrospective, that's like lesson learned in the usual waterfall methodology. We also have the product backlog, and the product backlog, I've talked about that. Those are the tasks that we need to do. The sprints, those are cycles. You don't just take the project all along, like we said, what we call phases or stages. Exactly, those are we break those phases or stages into further breakdown that are very easy to manage. So that's how it's done. Okay, let me see what we have done. Okay, I think we've covered most of those. So also, sometimes you may have bigger teams. Like I said, once you are more than 10, Scrum will give you trouble. You can have what we call Scrum of Scrums, which means that you have a team of 5 or 10 here, and then you segregate them, and then they meet. So like committee methods, where you pick a member of this committee to join there. So exactly that's the workings of this one. If you still want to use Scrum on this, and that's why it's under approach, because you want them to carry out that thinking to the next phase. Kanban is very simple. It's just a method. We can use it. And what does it mean? Is that you list out all the things. We can use it in risk management. We can use it in tracking RFIs, issue logs. We can use it in risk management planning. So what it just does is very simple. You will list all the things that has to be done, and then you divide it. It's a free board. You can divide it. Things that are pending, activities that are ongoing, activities that need approval. You just create as many lines as possible, and then you'll be let me see an example there. And then as progress has been made, if a work is in progress, it will move from the backlog into activities in progress. You don't want to keep too much activities in progress to keep your team focused. So then we also have, if there are any other criteria that you want, you can cut it to suit. Let me give us a typical example. Now, this is a typical Kanban board. Now, the application here is not Microsoft Word. It is Jira. What Jira does is, the advantage of Jira is that you are able to, you can see, the first, where we have the orange color, you can see to do. To do. So all the activities to be done are there. Activities in progress, you will see in progress. It will list it there for you. Activities that are already done is already there for you. So what this does is it gives visibility. If you want to communicate with the team, just double-click on any of the items and send an email. It will go to the owner of the task. Please, what is the update on this ongoing task? Send it by tomorrow. So you can see the progress, and when there are too much items in progress, you can say, no, drop this. Let's focus on this and help them. You can also create another column called for approval. So if there are pending approvals, you can see who is supposed to approve and what is wrong. So this is the view. Also, you can see on the left-hand side, you can see a report. You can print your sprint burn-down chart. The way we print progress is different, also slightly different from conventional one. Okay, let me see whether it's the next one. Okay. So you can see how much they've achieved. How much you have, how many resolved issues, if it's issue log that you're using, say, how much issues mitigated. So you can see the progress. You can see the progress made by the team as it's reducing. As there will have been planned on how long the project will take. That is the dash. And you can see, you cannot track it. Sometimes it may not be on time. So you can see how it's moving. This one is not on time, as you can see. They've not finished all the story points, and it's time. Yet, you can gain visibility of what every member of the team they're working on. So this burn down chart, we also have the burn up charts, showing what has been completed. So let me take more time on that. So something that looks like it, that we can use to explain Kanban board, is when you have a copy of your Microsoft project, MS project, when you have a copy in Microsoft project format, if you go to view program in calendar, we always view in Gantt charts. If you go to view in calendar, you will see something like this. So we can also use that to gain some visibility, though it's not as visible as Kanban, but it gives us a hint of how it works. Here, when you open that in your computer, you are going to see activities after that date, before, and activities after. You can use that also to track. So that's the kind of how it works, just that they've been able to capitalize on that and blow it further to give activities greater visibility. We also have Scrumban. Scrumban is a combination of the Scrum team, if you remember, together with, they are using Kanban, which means everybody is seeing what everybody is doing. You can query, you can communicate with them and say, guys, I can see you are working on this. Please, I need something here. You know what they are working on. You know when to make changes. You know when to help them to make better design decisions. I won't take time on that. Then we also have dynamic systems method. Dynamic systems method is very simple. You know, normally in our traditional approach, we make sure that the objective is approached. So the objective is number one, which is the features. And then we make sure cost and time supports that vision, that client's objective. In here is slightly different. You shoot, we make function determines the time and cost. But here, because we are trying to gain time, which is the advantage of Agile, you want to hit the market early, you are using the time you have. Maybe you've known that somebody is going to release a product in the next 2 weeks. What can I release to market before that 2 weeks? Oh, they're going to finish that high rise by early March 2024. What can I do that will make me to hit market before them? So you now design your own plan to beat them in their game. So it is now, you are now leaning up. You are making your product the minimum viable to hit the market. So you are constructing your functionality within the available constraints. Now, Crystal method is called mother of methods, or family of methodologies. It's also used, crystal means it's from the gemstone, like crystal. It categorizes projects based on how much risk it poses to human life. Now, when it is little risk, it's crystal clear, like we know, use the project. But when it's likely to pose hazard to lives, or maybe lives of workers or lives of users, you know, the deeper the color you are going to see. And also, when, the numbers are not clear. So the methodology changes based on criticality of the project and based on the number of people involved. If it is 1 to, first one should be around 5 to 6, followed by 5 to 10. So as the number of group members and criticality of the project are involved, the more you tweak the design to. Let me just quickly cover the other ones. So like I said, we can mix up all the Agile principles. You can mix XP, you can mix, that's the extreme programming, you can mix it, you combine. So understand the strength and capitalize on them. So how do we know when to use this? You look at the type of project, look at the culture, you know, because you need organizational culture that supports it. You know, some of the clients, I know some of the clients that are already into it, so they value it, which means that they are able to, you know, in Agile team, you can work with any, it's not like rigid authority that it's only the MD that approves. You can get someone from the team and it's approving on behalf of the team. And so he's more agile, he can respond more to change, he's part of the team, he's involved in the creating the design. He understands the business requirement, he's a representative. So if you don't have that, and you have the regular hierarchical approval that goes to the MD and comes back, the project will be delayed. It will not hit the market at the right time. Having said that, and we're closing now, we need to be aware that project management body of knowledge, there's a little rejig. It's already rejigged. Before, we are familiar with integration management, scope management. There's nothing like that in the new edition. There's not, because that's process. Identify risk, you do this. That's not the method again. The new method is based on performance domain, which means QS2, we need to be focused on performing what's important to the client, not just carrying out processes that we know will not give us positive outcomes. So what do we as project managers need to do differently when we're managing uncertainty, when we're managing projects in uncertain times or turbulent times? Yes, the turbulent realities are there, external realities are there. So what are the things, positive steps, pragmatic steps we can take? Number one, we must understand the value delivery landscape of the project we are dealing with, which means we maintain awareness of the changing delivery landscape in assessing the project's success or failure. And sometimes you help the client to see the benefit, not just the cost. You tell the client, contractor wants acceleration, wants to pay him additional fee to accelerate the program, to beat the turbulent times. So as a project manager, you need to tell him, okay, why not pay the client X amount of money? Because the rental from your product, if you hit the market 2 months earlier, because clients always make more money per day than contractor spends on site per day. So client needs to be made to see that on certain situations. So we must understand the value landscape. Then the project management approach, we must look at the dynamics, the project context, and know when to mix, when to use hybrid approach, and when to stick to our waterfall. By the way, waterfall is still the best when the objectives are knowable. Form of contract delivery, as to go more agile, adversarial contract relations doesn't have a place. Everybody bands together. It's more of partnership. So it means that before we use any form of contract, we must understand the workings so that it will not impede the expected cooperation, flexibility that we expect, do not strangulate the benefit of agile. Then we also need to understand the buildability issues. If you don't, some of the issues we face on our project is because of poor buildability studies. When the project is very complex, or could be there are too many curves, the contractor will spend too much time doing form work. That's not adding any benefit to the client. You see some curves like this. Who is paying for it? You see, who is paying for it? So the first question is, you query the design. It also helps you query the design. Who is paying for this? You're spending so much on glass facade. Who is paying for it? What's the value to what's the value? So if it's not adding value to the numbers, you get it off. So buildability analysis is very important. So we must be able to assess the product and process complexity ahead of time. Also, payment currency for long-term contracts, Naira-based contracts are not advisable. So it's either you break it down to make sure that have a scope that can be finished in 6 months, thereabout. That should make the project less turbulent. You don't want to see ×3 concrete rate. So definitely you want to make it manageable. And our clients sometimes they don't even understand the fluctuation method. They just think you want to dash contractor money. So by cutting it down, it makes it more understandable. It makes the amount not too scary to the client. Then also the process versus principle. You see, principle is very important.